All right, good evening. Here we go. I've got a few seconds before we go live. Tonight we have Alan Green here, and this is going to be one of the most unbelievable shows that you've heard in quite a while. And his research is some of the most compelling, some of the best that I have ever encountered. So get ready for tonight. Got lots of images and things. We are decoding Shakespeare tonight. It's unbelievable. So get ready for that. We go live here in 4 seconds. Here we go.
Radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah, man. Today's Tuesday, August 28th, 2018. 241 days into the new year, just 124 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of beautiful downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planets. I am your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? Been waiting for tonight's show for a long time. Oh, it's going to be an amazing night for me here. So if it's good for me, if it's great for me, it's good for you, it's great for you. Tonight we have very special guest, Alan Green is here. We are going to be decoding Shakespeare. Some of the most compelling research that I have encountered in a very, very long time. So buckle up, get ready. You're going to want to take some notes. We've got lots of images and video that we are going to discuss tonight as well. And Alan's website, which is tobeornottobe.org. The links are right there at jimmychurchradio.com. So you can head over there, click on the links, and follow through. I do want to point everybody to just go to Alan's page real quick. We're going to have Alan on at the bottom of the hour. But head over to his page and at the top, go to the podcast menu over at the far right. Click on that. And you'll see it says Jimmy Church Radio, August 28th, and visual aids, download PDF. Click on that, download the PDF, and that will escort you through tonight's show. Okay, little hand holding. So go and get that and be ready at the bottom of the hour. It is tobeornottobe.org. Okay, now with that, got lots to discuss tonight, and I posted an article over at OnStellar today, and if you haven't read it, you know what I do over at OnStellar, onstellar.com. is I will, and I try to do it every day, but as I get my thoughts together, my head together, and I'm writing out my show notes, sometimes I'll do a sneak preview. And I'll grab my show notes and literally publish them over at OnStellar. And I do that for two reasons. One, you get a sneak preview for the show tonight. That's the first thing, or where my head is at. But second, if you miss the live show, the live show, the now show, you can go and read the show notes, check that out, and then go and listen for the replays. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. I try to, catch it both ways. And I did that today over at OnStellar. So I'm going to go through those show notes here in just a bit. You can also follow me at JChurch Radio on Twitter, at JChurch Radio. And Facebook, YouTube, everything is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. You can go and seek it out and find it. We have all the buttons to do that at jimmychurchradio.com. You can follow, like, and subscribe and do whatever you wish to do. And if you go to tobeornottobe.org, Alan has got all of his social media up there too as well. So you can click on his link at jimmychurchradio.com, head over there, and all of his social stuff is right there. It's very simple. It says social at the top of his page. Any questions or comments during the show tonight? Use hashtag F2BQ on Twitter. And the sandbox to engage in all of that exciting conversation is hashtag F2B. We have two chat rooms open, one at KGRA The Planet, and, of course, one over at Spreaker. And I do keep my eye on Spreaker. Yeah, there you go. Letting everybody know. I keep my eye on Spreaker. Yeah, kids. You can email throughout the show, Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. And breaking news, are you ready for this? Pink Floyd founder Roger Waters has found himself blacklisted by being added to the Ukrainian database of national enemies. Roger Waters, after statements to Russian media about Crimea and the conflict in the Ukraine. Ukraine says that and I'm air quoting here, that the criminal Waters is responsible of anti-Ukrainian propaganda, attacks on the territorial integrity of the Ukraine, and participation in attempts to legalize the Russian annexation of Crimea. Unbelievable. Roger Waters. You know what? You've arrived. You have arrived. You have succeeded. You've done what you wanted to do when you show up on a country's national enemies database. Congratulations there, Roger Waters. Pretty cool. Also today, Puerto Rico's governor says that he's revising the official death toll from Hurricane Maria in the wake of a report from George Washington University that estimated the storm caused, are you ready for this? 2,975 deaths. Originally, the official death toll was 64. Unbelievable. All right, don't forget, you can subscribe to our podcast. We have over 900 archive shows. Custom apps, Apple, Android, all platforms, just $2 per month. Go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on that podcast banner. You can also become a Fade or Not over in our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com, where you'll get the Bunker Cam. You can also get commercial-free downloadable archives. And if you get the Game Changer, you get all of that fabulous Fade to Black gear. That's right, including that Fade to Black embroidered autographed hat that we don't sell. We don't even give it away. No, that is just for you, the Game Changers. Check out all of our sponsors. That's how this show survives every single day of the year. Life Change Tea. Get the tea.com. River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Ancient Life Oil. Organic CBD. Sacred Skull, some of the best jewelry you'll ever see, handmade, 15% off when you mention me or Fade to Black, by the way. Numana Emergency Food Storage, and of course, Bearing Optics night vision goggles. Let's get the show cracking. Happy birthday to today, Jack Black. Jack Black is 49. Shania Twain, the country version of AC/DC, today is 53. Also, Arnie Hammer today is 32. Now, Arnie Hammer, great actor. Yeah, that's right. From that dynasty, right? But he's 32, and he is amazing. And if you haven't seen The Man from U.N.C.L.E., you've got to go check it out. Guy Ritchie's film, and it's a great film, beginning to end. It's got a great end, got a great beginning. Arnie Hammer played Ilya, better known as Peril, in The Man from U.N.C.L.E. You've got to go check it out. He's so good. And also, Jennifer Coolidge today is 57, and she is one of the funniest ever of anything in human history. Jennifer Coolidge today is 57 years old. She was so great in A Mighty Wind, Best in Show. I like trains. Yeah, Jennifer Coolidge today is 57. Happy birthday. On this day in history, OTD, 1996, it went down. Charles and Diana divorce. Fader fact. People with brown eyes actually have blue eyes under a layer of melanin. I bet you didn't know that, did you? That's a fader fact. So I guess I have blue eyes. Can you peel it off and then have blue eyes underneath? That's a thought. Tonight, very special guest, Alan Green is here, and he'll be with us at the bottom of the hour. I have been pursuing Alan, and he'll tell you, for months. He has been very, very busy, but we finally got it locked down, and we locked down this date like 2 months ago. I've been waiting for August 28th for a very long time. So tonight, Alan Green is here. Tomorrow night, Eric Rains is back with us. I cannot wait for tomorrow night. And Thursday is another Fader night with John Rappaport and his No More Fake Newsroom Live, along with our very special guest, Jason Quitt. Jason is launching a new website for his new film on Thursday. So we're going to announce that, what the film is and what is going on. Actually, it's kind of plural. It's films. And we're going to do that. And he's also going to help me answer the phones all night long right here on Fade to Black. And that will be on Thursday night. Friday, I am off. Saturday, I am back over at Coast to Coast AM. And my guest is Donnie Arcade. So don't miss that. All right. Now, back to, let me hit this. Let me hit this coffee. I need some coffee. Do you notice that? Before I lose my mind, before I just go off, I need a shot of coffee. Yeah. I'm going to do it again. We're starting to get dangerously close to some very, very iffy times. And what I mean by that, does the world, your world, everything that you have come to know and understand, does it feel different to you right now, today, in the now? When I say everything, I truly mean it. Everything. Something has shifted. We have so much to digest at the moment that it's really getting overwhelming. And you really need to listen to every word that I'm about to say. Because a partial list, a very, very partial list, includes some of these things that we deal with every single day. Over the last year, we've had UFOs on the front pages of the news. We've got Russia, China, Syria, North Korea, Iran, Canada, Mexico, the UK, Germany, all fighting something or someone or each other. Canada. How can Canada be offensive to anybody, including this country? Right? Mexico. Unbelievable. The UK. Allies, right? all fighting. We've got racism, we've got sex, we've got porn stars, hush money, walls being built. We've got politics in Washington, D.C. just everywhere. We've got Tesla. We've got shootings. We have Facebook. We have YouTube. Harley Davidson is upset. Harley Davidson. The NFL, kneeling or not, is suddenly an issue. I could go on and on and on and on and on. I could throw in the Cookie Monster. I could throw in roller skates too. And I can cause an argument. I can cause a fight. I could divide the country if I bring up anything out. Spare tires. Let's divide the country. Bring up whatever. Tube socks. Stripes or no stripes. Let's burn this sucker down. Pretty much anything that you can think of. Everything has been flipped. It's been twisted. It's been toasted and roasted. All of it. Everything. One news site says everything is great in the world. Nothing to see here. Move along. You go to another and everything in the world is wrong. You go to another, maybe even pick an international site, and you'll get the opposite of the opposites. Everything flip-flopped into a crazy, stretched piece of saltwater taffy. Now, it's entertaining, but it's also scary at the same time. Never before have we been so challenged to filter out the static, the fuzz. But, that is how we must have it. We have to have it this way. We have to allow for everything to be published, to be written, to be broadcasted, and to be viewed, whether you agree with it or not. It's the way it must be. We have always known that our news is controlled. We accept that. And there is also an alternative source that has always been there for us. Voices, reporters that will challenge things, and we can go and seek them out. Nobody should be silenced. No matter what you like, there will be someone out there who doesn't. I guarantee it. You prefer vanilla, and you get the chocolate fight. That's fine. Red or blue, Coke or Pepsi, Ford versus Chevrolet. Yeah, I'm a Ford guy, by the way. That's right. I'm a Ford guy. Let's divide this country. Church is a Ford guy. I knew it. Today, there seems to be this massive change happening. One that says we can't trust anyone. We can't trust anything. We can't do anything anymore. And this narrative is spreading, and it's very, very dangerous. I can't predict the future. I can't. But a few years ago, I had said that if you flipped your news headlines over 180 degrees, you would be closer to the truth. Remember that? I did that for a year straight. I would pull up a headline, flip it over, and we'd all get a laugh out of it. Right? Remember that? Well, what I didn't know then is how right I'd be today. It scares me. 3 years ago, did you really think we'd be in this kind of chaos right now? Did you have any idea? We're moving along at light speed into something that we are seriously going to regret. I also said many, many, many times that I walk around with flowers hanging out of my pockets. And I remember saying that so much and I was trying to project something. I was trying to just ward off this coming darkness, this storm. Reminded me of Lord of the Rings, Mordor. And I could see it and I could feel it. And so when I would say that, and I really feel that no matter what, back then, that we would always get things worked out. And that's why I said it. I walk around with flowers hanging out of my pocket. I just know that no matter what, we're going to come to our senses. Right? And I said this because I was watching things unravel. It was starting to come apart. What I've always known is that we have to go to the edge of that cliff. We have to. We have to take a peek. You're in the dark and you're just up on the edge of that cliff and you stick your toe out, and you're feeling out there and you feel the edge of the cliff and you know it's right there. It's right there. And you can just look down from the darkness into the deep, dark, scary unknown. And you've got to do that so we can back up a step and go, whew, man, phew, we almost went there. But we didn't. That's where we are at right now. That's where we find ourselves today. We are so close to becoming completely unhinged. Completely. What made this country so great, our world, is that we are all different. All of us, we're all different. Just because somebody doesn't agree with you doesn't make them wrong. It makes them different. When somebody out there says negative things, and it's daily, pointed at those that they don't agree with, share values, whatever, and that they are right, so everyone else is wrong, well, you know what? It shakes me to my core. I don't dig it. I don't get it. I don't like it. It's not who I am, and it's not who you are. I was raised, just like all of you, I was raised to accept anyone and everyone for who they are, no matter what. That's the way I was raised. And I've never forgotten that. Those are my core values. It's what makes this country so bleeping great. It's what used to make, think about this, it's what used to make YouTube great. It's what used to make Facebook great. It was AOL back in the day because the net brought this world closer together. And we were able to hear and see the voices and faces from all corners of the planet in real time. And for a minute there, we tasted it. And it tasted good. The wonder of everything was just a click away. We had a glimpse of what we could be. The future was getting really, really cool. It was amazing. It was. And somehow we managed to let it slip away. And we had it too. And right now, I don't know how it can be brought back. If we could just roll things back 10 years and know how we took ourselves apart in 2018, 2017, 2016. What are we doing to ourselves? We were so close. We were so close. So, it's like this. Before this country, this world gives into this us or them mentality, we need to step back and take a breath. A deep breath. Us or them, and you need to listen to me, us or them will never end good. That has a very bad finale. Today, we have all of the news, all of social media. Everything is saying that we're on the verge of, well, a meltdown. But I don't think so. I really don't. This is their narrative, not ours. This big social experiment will have some very bad effects if it's not toned down soon. And I'm not talking about, you or I, bad effects on us. We're already affected. I'm referring to them. It's not going to end well. This country, this planet is much smarter than that. We have grown up. And at some point, enough is going to be enough. And I mean it. Do you know who has the right answers? For real? The right answers. Everyone. Us. History has proven this time and time again. The masses win. We will always find a way to get along. We will always find a way to mature. We will always find a way to learn from our mistakes. And those out there that are in charge of everything, that are trying to control the narrative and trying to break us apart and trying to break us down, are going to lose. They always have. Think about that. I'm very concerned. Over the last couple of days, I have been shaken to my core. And I go and I read the things that I read. I research the things that I research, and I see the direction that things are trying to be guided. They're trying to force this narrative. And it's not going to work. It's not. It's freaked everybody out. And I get that. And one of the things that I discuss so much on this show is order out of chaos. It's a cyclical thing. This planet runs that way. Mother Earth runs that way. And you can't have order without chaos. And it's cyclical. And right now, we are on the verge of some crazy stuff. So we've pushed it as far as we can push it. We've let them push it. We've let it happen. I've talked about these triggers, these trigger words, these trigger narratives, and there's something in our DNA that allows it to happen. And it's happened throughout history over and over again, and we are right there. And you go back and you look back 200 years. Look back 30 years. Look back to 1990 in the Soviet Union. And what happened there? Let's go back to World War I and World War II, back up to the revolutions and all of the things that were happening around the world with Spain and Portugal and Italy and China and Japan. And back up before that, the Roman Empire. Look at Greece and look at Egypt. It's happened over and over and over again. And that's where we find ourselves today. We're going to go right there. We're going to go right to the edge, and we're going to take a peek. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Alan Green is here. I have been waiting for this show now for 3 months. It's finally happening tonight. This is some of the best, most compelling research I have seen put together in a very long time. We've got a great presentation for you, so take notes. Go to tobeornottobe.org. Download that PDF in the podcast section, and I'll be right back with our guest, Alan Green, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. I'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black Blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
What can I say about the most popular tea on the internet? And what do customers say about Life Change Tea at getthetea.com? A lot. But by federal law, we at getthetea.com cannot make claims to how this product can enhance your health. We cannot even post our testimonies without being in compliance. So how do we get past the hump? Try our products at getthetea.com and see for yourself. You can send us a testimony, but we just can't post it. Bummer. Our products are GMO-free and organic. We pride ourselves in being the best we can be, and we urge you to take charge of your health. We're 11 years strong, and many of our customers have shared their successes with friends and family. Protect your colon. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Getthetea.com. Getthetea.com.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Win big with KGRA this summer. Tickets and hotel accommodations to the biggest conferences, autographed books and DVDs, chances to win all-inclusive conference cruises, and private dinners with your favorite KGRA hosts. Click the contest tab at kgraradio.com for your chance to win big this summer. Your contact for the best alternative talk radio on the planet. kgraradio.com.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Matthew, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox. Come and engage in the conversation. Tonight, Alan Green is here. We're going to discuss his amazing research in Dee-coding Shakespeare. Tomorrow night, Eric Rains is back. Thursday night is another Fader night with John Rappaport and his No More Fake Newsroom Live. We have special guest Jason Quitt's going to be here helping me managing the phones and making a big announcement about his new movie. And then we'll have open lines all night. But tonight it's Alan Green. Alan was the musical director for Davy Jones of the Monkees for 12 years and co-author with Jones of 2 best-selling award-winning books, They Made a Monkey Out of Me and Mutant Monkeys. Green's first academic book, Dee-coding Shakespeare, was initially published in 2010, but he withdrew it from the marketplace because of new discoveries, which he knew would have a huge impact on the eventual goal of opening the altar stone. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. He thought it would be better to wait and launch both books together, little suspecting those discoveries would take another 6 years to complete. Book 1 was released in September 2016, the follow-up, Barcode, in mid-2018. The third in the series, The Shakespeare Equation, is slated to be ready in late 2018. With the Holy Trinity Solution series almost under wraps, Green will return to finishing his musical, Bard, based on those much misunderstood love poems, Shakespeare's sonnets. And, man, wait till you hear what we're going to discuss later about that page. We're going to do it all tonight. His website, of course, is tobeornottobe.org, and I would like to welcome for the first time to Fade to Black, Mr. Alan Green. Alan, good evening. It's taken us a long time to get here, but we're here.
We're here, Jimmy.
It's good
Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's good to hear your voice. And before we get started, you get the first-time guest disclaimer. Yeah, so let's get that out of the way, which is, Alan, it's just you and I sitting on my couch having a conversation as friends. And where the conversation starts, it starts. Where it ends, but we're going to end as friends. There you go. You ready?
Sounds perfect to me, Jimmy. Let's go.
Now, you and I are a lot alike, and I'm going to say it like this: I'm a musician. I had a career in the music industry, very successful, very fun, and here I am today with you on this radio program. So we've got these very, very strange parallels between the two of us, and the quest for knowledge and research is now paramount in both of our lives. And I want to back up. I just like everybody on this planet, I think we were all a Davy Jones fan at one point or another. And so let's actually go back to those days, and how did you meet Davy? And you had your own career too as well.
Well, the funny thing is, I wasn't a Davy Jones fan or a Monkees fan at all, and that's where I'd actually like to start the story, because back to we all, maybe some of us remember 1966. I'd be coming home from school, and there was this new TV program on, right? Hey, hey, we're the Monkees.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm watching it, and I absolutely had a visceral reaction. I hated it. And it was all ego. I mean, what it was for me, I was 17. I'm a musician. I'm going to go out into the world. And like all kids at that age, I wanted to be the next Beatles. And this little guy from round the corner from me in Manchester had got that gig. Davy Jones, there he was. He was the next Beatles on TV, just around the corner from me. I didn't know him, but he'd got the gig. And so I actually had this absolute gut reaction where I actually hated him. No rational reason at all, because I didn't know him.
Understandable.
So I want that to just stay in the air for there, because then you'll see years later I meet him. And wow, it is karma. It is karmic. It's just, why did I hate his guts so much? It was very interesting.
Did you ever tell him that? Did you ever say, dude, at one point I could have choked you?
Oh, sure. Yeah, the day we met. Yeah.
That's great.
No, but the thing is, I don't know if you grew up in that era or not, but you were either a Stones fan or you were a Beatles fan.
That's right.
You'd walk on separate sides of the street going to school.
You know what? Can I? I'll just tell you, I was neither. I didn't. You know what? What's really funny? I didn't get either of them until I became an adult. And I go back and I listen to that stuff now, and it's just like, man, what was I missing? But I fought it. I was more of a Hendrix guy. I was, I was going in the other direction of everything.
But you just said Hendrix, and there's a story. I mean, right? You know that when the Monkees first went on the road, because they have this huge success on TV, obviously, because it's like a military operation. They know they're going to be a success. Kirshner's got the best songwriters working for them. Every week they put out a new song that's going to be a hit. And at some point, they had to end up on the road. So they do a concert. Their first concert, where they're still really learning to play together, is off island. It's in Hawaii, so that it's not mainstream. It's like being off Broadway. Let's do it here in case it bombs.
Sure.
Well, who was their opening act?
That's right.
Hendrix.
That's right.
And the fans booed him off the stage because they wanted Last Train to Clarksville.
Right.
I mean, can you imagine Hendrix gets booed off the stage of all these, the Monkees fans. Anyway, but we're getting ahead of ourselves there. It was, to me, that was the start of something. I thought, oh, darn it, he's got that job. I really wanted that job. But I was also I was classically trained, and I was a jazz pianist. I've been playing in jazz clubs through my mid-teens as well, and so I just wanted to get out there and play, and I went out into the world as a musician, and I started what I call a manifesting spree. That is, I had no idea how you officially meditate, but I had read somewhere, I don't even remember where, that somehow or other, you must focus the mind, look at a picture of something that you want, put it up on the wall, believe it, you've got it, it's already there. That idea of just positive thinking. Mm-hmm. And I set out thinking, well, I need to do that. And I literally did that. As soon as I got the travel bug, I went to Africa with a jazz band. I came back and I thought, I really want to do more of this travel. So I actually got a picture of a cruise ship. Don't know what was the impetus. I don't know what. I just thought, cruise ship, well, that'd be cool. Yeah, I'll be out. I'm playing the piano, and I could picture myself playing the piano, palm trees, blue oceans. I'm from Manchester, never seen anything like that.
Right.
I'm thinking, oh, that'd be great. And of course, shipboard romance every freaking week. I mean, that was the impetus. That's
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all.
And so I put this picture up on my wall, and I did that every night. I would look at that picture and believe I was on it. And I swear to you, within 2 to 3 months, I get a phone call from somebody I do not know out of the blue. He says, I hear you're a pretty darn good pianist. He says, would you like to go on a cruise? And I thought, oh, that's how it works. Great. He said, my pianist just died in a bar fight. I got an opening. So I was kind of conflicted from the start. I thought, oh, shit, I made this happen, but I might be responsible for some guy dying in a fight, Anyway, yes, I went on the cruise ship, and that was sort of started it. I thought, oh, great, that's how you do it. And I started to think, manifest. The next thing I did, I was starting to write songs. I got a song recorded by Merv Griffin, of that TV talk show host. That felt like I was manifesting. And next thing, I want to do a label. I want to be on a record label. So I sat at home after I'd done my stint on the ships, thinking, I'm signing a record deal. I'm signing a record deal. Now, I don't mean to say you can just do this willy-nilly. You've got to have, you've got to have the talent to be doing it. You've got to be out there in the music biz. But still, I didn't know anybody who was going to get me a record deal. But one manifested somehow or other, connections. This guy calls me up, like your stuff, show me your demos, got it. And I'm on a record label. It was a very small label. It was called, what were they called? Charisma. That was it. And that was Monty Python's label.
Well, that's right.
And Genesis. But they had this funny thing. Every month they'd call me down from Manchester to London for what they called an image meeting. Right, now my name's Alan Green, right? So they'd bring me down and say, bunch of suits at a table. Your name is Tommy Blue. And I'd laugh, and they'd go, no, take this seriously. And you always wear blue, even on the radio. Well, I couldn't take this seriously, but that's their job, right? We've got to make something happen. We're not creative people ourselves. We're not the ones doing the music, so we're going to make you a product. So I swear, they changed my name to Tommy Blue, and then Tommy Rainbow, and something else. I got so fed up of it, and about the 5th of my image meetings, driving down from Manchester to London every couple of months, I got so fed up, I showed up in a suit of armor. Full deal with the helmet and the visor and a shield and a mace and a plumed feather, and I'm rattling around. I walk into the meeting and I slam my mace down on the floor, and I sit there and I lift up the visor and I say, it's me. My name is Tommy Armour. And guess what? I always wear armor.
They probably, you know what's funny? You go and you do something that crazy. There's somebody at the table that's going to go, I get it.
No, nobody.
It didn't happen.
Nobody got it. They dropped me from the label. They said he doesn't take his image meetings seriously enough. So anyway, long story short, this manifesting was working. And I thought, well, it doesn't matter. I'll manifest something else. And I sat in my apartment in London and faced New York, where I roughly thought, oh, there's New York. I can picture Clive Davis in his office. I'm going to get signed by Clive Davis. And I'm absolutely serious that this is how I approached it. I wanted to test the boundaries of this. Can you make things happen? Because it seemed to me as though you could, if you could only stay positive enough. And things started to happen. I attracted a manager who had contacts and Next thing, blah, blah, blah. I end up in New York. I go in to see Clive Davis, but I went in wearing a scuba diving outfit because I just like being funny like that, with a spear gun, etc. And he thinks, yeah, this guy's cocky. Yeah, I'll come and see your show. And he came and saw my show, and he signed me. On and on and on this happened. But I was always, at the same time, self-sabotaging. For instance, this is Clive Davis, right? I mean, he's the guy who's discovered everybody, according to him.
The cat.
Anyway.
Well, no, Clive is Clive. There's no doubt about it. I've met Clive, and
yeah,
strong dude, strong guy, strong.
But he sits me down at his piano and he says, "I've signed you," but he says, "You haven't written any hits yet. Write me a hit." Well, I was so pissed. I said, I thought, "What do you mean I haven't written any hits?" Well, of course I hadn't written any hits, but that meant I'll go home, So I went home and I demoed 3 songs and sent them back in. And one of them was a joke, an absolute joke song called 15. And the chorus went something like, baby, you'll soon be 15.
Ouch.
You know what I mean when
Ouch.
I say I love you. Well, I was 27 at the time, right? It was a joke. And Clive says, "That's it. That's a hit." I said, but I just did that because you said I couldn't. I mean, no, don't make. He made me record it under duress. I recorded it thinking, well, he'll change his mind and I'll record a bunch of other stuff. We did a whole album, and he absolutely insisted, that's it. You have to release that. And by that time, they changed my name to Arlan, Arlan, Green. And I refused. And Clive Davis, being Clive Davis, said, right, well, goodbye. They'd done a whole album, but they dropped me from the album. They dropped me from the label because, of course, I didn't take my Clive Davis meetings seriously enough either. Anyway, this went on and on for some time. I mean, I crashed Elton John's press conference next because I've got an album, but it's not going to come out. And I see Elton John on the street in London, and I run to where I know he's going. He's going to Rocket Records, and I burst into his press conference to give him it wasn't a tape, it was actually a vinyl. It was a finished vinyl, but with a white cover because it wasn't ever going to come out, And his bouncers jump on me, and Elton was actually quite nice, and he says, no, don't hurt him. What do you want? I'm in a room full of photographers flashing that he's announcing the launch of Rocket Records. Well, the launch of him and Kiki D doing something on Rocket Records. So anyway, I just did a whole stream of these things thinking that's how you manifest these things. And to cut a long story short, you can do that. I found out that you could do that, but there was something wrong with my methodology because I was absolutely convinced that ego me, was the person that was doing it. And I wasn't giving a thought to where that energy, that power, or the ability to do it was coming from. And so I was definitely rocketing towards a comeuppance, and that comeuppance happened in the fact that here I've got dropped from Arista, Elton didn't sign me, I went to America and I did auditions for about 20 labels, all of which said, "Oh, fabulous," but then nothing came through. In other words, I hit a brick wall at some point where it was just not working. And when that happened, I happened to be driving back from a trip to a friend saying, I don't know what I'm going to do. I thought this was always going to happen and I could make it happen, and it's not. And in that time, I won't go into great detail except to say that I wanted to communicate this. And so that PDF that you pointed your listeners to, if anybody wants to download it, there's a picture on that PDF of a circle with 100% at the top and 0% at the bottom. That's the only way I can sort of describe it. So you'd have to see it. But the point was, I began to understand that by focusing one's thought, positive thought, right? Cruise ship, record deal. It depends on how positive you are. If you are sitting in meditation posture saying, I see it, it is, and then you come out of meditation and your little voice that we all have inside is going, who the hell do you think you are? I mean, that's not going to happen, is it? Because we all have those negative voices. And that's manifesting too. So you're attracting it, but then you're repelling it with your negative thoughts. And I had a sort of intuitive understanding of this, and that this is what was happening to me. But I could see quite easily a sort of a 50-50. If you were 50% positive during the day and 50% negative, where are you going to be tomorrow? Exactly where you are today. You're not going to manifest anything. You've got to push it up towards that 75% positive, 25% negative end. So if you look at that diagram, it kind of shows you that if you then drop a line from that 75%, it drops it down onto a line that goes through the circle, and that's when you're going to manifest along the timeline from now into the future. And I could see that that was absolutely clearly right. But something happened to me that was absolute grace. I was at that point where it wasn't working, and I realized why, and I knew why, and I wasn't giving any credit to where this whole thing was coming from. Not to go into too much detail, but I'm driving back, and I'm literally thinking I'm tremendously in debt, first of all. I bet everything on coming to America and getting a record deal. I'm renting a car that I've got to pay for, and I've got nothing to pay it with. And I really thought I was at the end of my whole tether. And I felt that I was having a conversation with the divine. And this is very hard to put into terms, where if you believe in God, okay, say God. If you believe in energy, say energy. Whatever you believe in, whatever you're comfortable with. But to me, it was the whole thing of, it was definitely divine, it was energy, and I could feel that I was essentially saying, why has all this happened to me?
Let me jump in right there, Alan, if I can.
Yeah, sure.
Let's say you weren't dropped from MCA or from Pasha, right? If you would have stayed on, then you wouldn't have had this epiphany, this revelation inside of yourself.
Exactly. It had to happen. I mean, lots of people say this. You got to hit rock bottom and all that.
That's
various
right.
people have it happen in various ways.
Sure.
To me, that's how it happened. But the point that I want to get to that is so striking is that essentially I felt the divine saying, who do you think has closed off all these ears? You have been thinking that you're doing this. You can manifest a cruise ship. You can manifest Clive Davis, but you've never once given me credit for this. You've never once thought of where this is coming from. Where do you think it's coming from? And I was humbled enough at the time to go, yeah, I get it. My consciousness was changed at that point. I was literally driving slower and slower and slower on the freeway somewhere in Texas. And I had what I could only describe, I'll just say it's grace, but my consciousness was changed. I was in a blissful state, and that blissful state overwhelmed me. It was peace that I'd never, ever, ever, ever felt. And it came just from this voice saying, let go. Why do you think you've got to do it? Let me do it. And the question arose, do you think that the creator of all this, and by all this I mean I was seeing energy, I was seeing the sap in the trees, I was seeing atomic structure in the steering wheel of the car. I'm going, what the hell is happening here? Wow. Do you think the person, the being that created all this can't get you a record deal? Silly question, right? Of course. Just let me do it. And at that moment, I just let go. Now, the astonishing thing is, I then was in a state of 100% positivity. No longer was I having to try to say, let me make it 75%. Let me make it 80% positive. Let me drown out these negative voices. There were no negative voices. They'd all gone. Everything was gone, and it was 100%. The tricky thing about 100% is, if you look at that diagram, that means you drop a line down from 100%, and it means you're going to manifest when? Now. Which seems impossible. How can you manifest? But I was literally having a conversation with this force. You could say I'm mad. You could say I was stoned. I wasn't. I'd certainly had my share of all that side of things, but I was perfectly stone cold sober. And I'm driving home and I'm thinking, oh man, wow. Everything was changed. And I knew that I could ask for what I wanted at that moment and I would have it. I knew very well I could ask for $1 million and I would have it, but I didn't. I'd asked for what I needed. I was very, very deeply in debt. We're talking 40 years ago now. And so I asked for $60,000 to cover my debts, pay everybody off that I'd borrowed from, have enough to live and write my next album. And the voice said, okay, that's done. Now what else? Well, what else? I want the record deal. Okay, you got the record deal. Boom. And I'm driving back in bliss. I get home to LA. The phone rings the next day, and it's Richard Perry of Planet Records. And basically, he didn't end up being the producer, nor was he the label, but he shuffled me over to ABC. I got a record deal, and I was given $60,000. It manifested instantly the moment I asked for it. Now, that state didn't stay, but it actually faded away over 3 months. But I was high, blissfully high for 3 months, and then it faded. And the reason I tell you that story is because it's very, very, you said at the beginning, order out of chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Cycles, yeah? We all have to go through those somehow. The chaos that I was in was, I'm thinking, I'm doing all this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. No. That's a chaotic kind of a place to be at, because the little negative voices are always going to intrude. You can't do that, blah, 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 right? Good angel, bad angel on our shoulders kind of thing. But for a brief spell, no, there were no negative voices. Everything was utter bliss. And then it faded, and it was as though what I was being told was, this exists, this state exists, but now you've got to find it for yourself. How do you find it? And I went on a search, and I eventually found my spiritual path. And I'm not going to proselytize, I'm not going to say what it is, but I found a meditation technique that worked for me. And I just simply say to anybody that is interested, well, search around, you'll find something. It will resonate. If it resonates for you, then do it. But at least give it a time. I gave it a year. I said, well, I found out how to meditate properly now through this particular teaching, and I started to meditate. And then, now I get another record deal. Now I've got an album coming out. Now I was given my hit record, I Surrender, which is all I ever wanted. I just wanted the Davy Jones gig. I wanted that. And so the moment I got it, and I swear to you, I called the album I Surrender because that's what I was doing. The song sounds like a love song, but really it was a song to the divine. I surrender to you. And literally I had, it all came, and I had everything I wanted. And at that point I was meditating a lot, maybe 4 hours a day, and just thinking, this is all I want. I want to be a monk. I actually applied to the teachings that I was doing. I said, I want to be a monk. And they said, don't think so. Just stay doing what you're doing. Phone rings. Now, I made a vow, and here's where it gets to be very, very fun. I made a vow. And what do you do when you find your spiritual path? I made a vow of celibacy and sobriety.
Right.
What? I was absolutely serious.
That's not too Hollywood, Alan.
So the phone rings. Got a gig for you. Got to show up. Can't tell you what it is, but you got to whip this band into shape because they can't play. They can't read charts. I show up for the gig. I'm playing with this band. I'm teaching them how to get the charts together. But every fourth number is a monkey song. I'm thinking, what is this? Nobody will tell me anything. I'm teaching the band how to play. And then in through the door at the end of the theater walks the bastard that I'd hated since I was a teenager.
Davy Jones.
And he walks up to me. And he goes, hello, cowboy. How's it going then? I hear you're from Manchester. Do you know that pub down road? The Una Sharple story that we did on Coronation Street? And he starts all this Manchester humour. And immediately, my gut that was all tied up in knots the moment he walked in, because I thought, why? Irrational, karma. I hate him. Who's this? Oh, damn, it's him. And then he walks up. We start all the Manchester humour. I'm making him laugh. He's making me laugh. Within 10 minutes, we're rolling on the floor laughing. And it all went away. I knew I loved this guy. Wow, where did that come from? And he looks at me and says, you're coming on road with us, aren't you? Come on road. I can't do this with these Yanks. I don't like that. We're Manchester lads. Come on, we'll have a fun time. We'll have a great time. And 2 days later, I'm his musical director and I'm on the road with him with the biggest sex, drug, and rock and roll guy in the business.
Right.
I've just vowed what? Celibacy and sobriety. God hath a sense of humor.
Yeah, I don't want to ask how long that lasted, but I will say this. I've got to take a break right here, so we're going to do that. And when we come back, we're going to sort of pick up where we left off, but we kind of also got to jump ahead and get a little bit into the supernatural here, because that's
where it's leading.
That's where it goes next. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Alan Green. Get ready. The ending of tonight's show is I just can't wait for it, and we're going to get to all of that. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. All of Alan's social media contacts are right there on his website, To Be or Not to Be, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Does your basement or crawl space have a damp, musty smell? Well, watch out! That's a sign of too much moisture and not enough ventilation. And that can mean increased mold growth and the buildup of harmful toxins and gases. Don't bother with a dehumidifier. It just circulates the same unhealthy air. Now there's a better way to remove these dangers and odors. It's with the computerized Wave Moisture Control Unit that reduces moisture and expels pollutants.
We replaced our old dehumidifier with the Wave unit, and in only 3 weeks, our basement is dry and the musty smell is gone.
Wave units require no maintenance, no buckets of water or filters, and costs only pennies a day to run. Breathe better, live healthier with an affordable, no-maintenance Wave unit. Call 888-717-WAVE, 888-717-WAVE, or visit dryhealthyhome.com. Dryhealthyhome.com.
Ride the wave. Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
Ancient Life Oil. Life-changing. The real oil. CBD is truly Ancient Life Oil from the source. This oil has no psychoactive effect and is also legal in all 50 states. When you're healthy, you're happy. The truth about this wonderful plant is that it wants to give back to mankind life, longevity, and happiness. Ancient Life Oil are golden grade, all organic, non-GMO, and infused with high-quality liquid coconut oil. It's simple. Just go to ancientlifeoil.com today. That's ancientlifeoil.com. The best, purest, organic, and non-GMO CBD in the world. Go Beckley Tappy. The statements made regarding these products have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Please consult your healthcare professional about potential interactions or other possible complications before using any product.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Alan Green. We are decoding Shakespeare tonight. We've got a lot of images, illustrations. We've got some video, some PDFs that you need to download. All of that is right there. It's kind of a multimedia type of night with you, Alan. And we've got a lot to squeeze in here. But I've got two questions that I've got to get out of the way first. At this point in your life, going back to this period when you first met Davy, did you have any interest into the esoteric or to the fringe sciences, or, you know, who Shakespeare really was, Giza, Egypt, life after death, UFOs, any of this? Was this part of your life?
Yeah, I had the interest always in the spiritual aspects and the wanting to meditate. I certainly had read books about that in my youth that triggered a lot of interest in that. That was always there. Certainly I remember reading about, you know, flying saucers and that sort of thing. But the actual crux of what I ended up being led to, no, I had absolutely zero interest in Shakespeare. And I knew next to nothing about Egyptology. So those were kind of kept waiting in the wings for me. And I honestly know that that was a gift, because had I been interested, I would have had to have unlearned a lot that the typical education system would have given me. But I was actually protected from that by actually having resistance to it. I just was not interested at all. That came much, much later. So what I just described to you is really that sort of setting the scene of, oh, yeah, this is a guy who thinks he can manifest and do all this, and then he has a spiritual change of heart and suddenly finds out what it's all about. Great, you know, that's it's wonderful. It's everybody has some sort of story like that.
Well,
I end up,
but Alan, let me jump in. Question number 2, very important. In your presentations and your research, the math is complex and quite incredible. And you come off at times as a very seriously trained and educated mathematician, bordering on physics, and it's right there. Where did the math knowledge come from?
Yeah, that's quite impressive, isn't it?
It impresses me.
I don't know. No, I was always good at math, but no, I'm not. It's not as though I were a trained mathematician. This is iconoclastic. I had to teach myself. I mean, I've been the part that we're going to get to is the last 15 years of my life. So there's a whole bit missing between Davy Jones and then. But essentially, that last 15 years I've been on the journey of discovering who Shakespeare really is and what he has left for us. And in that time, I've had to teach myself that math. I've had to teach myself what I needed to know, because it was very clear that the encodings that he has left for us required mostly a knowledge of geometry, somewhat a little bit of trigonometry, and a little bit of calculus. It's not that deep, to be honest, but yeah, I know it looks a bit foreboding, and I understand it was to me.
You're being very humble right now. No, the work is extraordinary, and I'll say it for you. It's just tremendous, and we're going to get to all of that in just a bit. I'm speaking to the audience right now. They're probably wondering how complex that. Well, you're going to see and appreciate the research that has been put into all of this. Let's back up once again, and how did you go from mutant monkeys, right? And they made a monkey out of me, to Shakespeare. How did Shakespeare come into the picture?
Beautiful thing is, I was on the road with David for 12 years. We became really the best of friends, and it was a very lovely experience. And when I said at the end there, the greatest sex, drugs, and rock and roll person, that was a bit unfair. I really send that out as a joke. He was well known to be a very, very, very popular, and obviously he's the guy with the stars in his eyes in The Monkees, a sexy guy. So obviously the women were always very, very, very attracted to him, and that was a part of just being a star. He was always very, very gracious with all of that. It's just that it's a stardom thing. You can't help it. It's going to be part of the gig. And so we ended up doing work together, and that vow I made actually did last 2 years. I finally broke down after 2 years, but I stayed with him for 2 years. And the beautiful thing is, David used to come to me. He'd be partying and saying, "Oh, you're gonna get a party with us tonight, or are you gonna do?" He had a word for meditation. He called it "why meing it." He would sit there and say, he'd lift his hands up, his palms up, like you do in the meditation posture, and you go, "What do you do when you're doing that? Do you just go, 'Why me, Lord? Why me?'" And so he'd say to me, "Are you going to why me it tonight, or are you going to party?" And I'd say, "No, I think I'm going to why me it again." But I was always still very, very firm on my job of, I must keep this connection going. I want to meditate. I want to understand what all this is about. And I was always reading a certain book, and he'd ask me, what is that about? Beautiful thing is, I walked in on him one day in the green room before a show, switched the light on, and he was in a chair, and he was there with his hands upturned he was trying to meditate. And I said, I got you. You were why me in it. And he goes, no, I wasn't. I was having a nap. So the thing is, he really wanted that. He really wanted to know, what is that? What is that you do that's better than us partying every night? And it broke my heart that he never actually, he would dip his toe in the pool sort of thing, and I'd tell him to get this certain book, and he never did. But it's okay, because I believe in reincarnation, and he's a beautiful, wonderful soul, and I'm sure the next time he comes back, he'll jump right into it, because he was so fascinated by it, but he just couldn't ever quite get past the life that he was in of doing the job that he had. He had that gig, right? That was his gig. So anyway, we ended up being on the road for 12 years, and during that 12 years, I learned to do graphics on the computer. I got the first Macintosh. I got a Mac Plus in 1985. They came out in 1984. I got a Mac in 1985. He's telling me all his stories. I put them all together into the first book. They made a monkey out of me. I created on the Macintosh. It was actually the first ever entirely desktop published autobiography of a celebrity. We kind of kicked off the whole desktop publishing industry with it. Then a few years later, I did Mutant Monkeys. And what that was about was it was teaching me how to do all these graphics, which later, now you see in the Shakespeare stuff. I do, I'm good at that. I can do these really good graphics. But I had to learn that being with David and putting out these 2 books. So it was very useful from that point of view, besides us being the greatest of friends for all that time. And then, so the new area that I find myself in years and years and years later, after having got married and having a wonderful daughter, Alana, whose birthday is today.
Happy birthday, Alana. That's cool.
She's 34 today.
Wow.
Is that all of a sudden, almost 15 years ago, a friend of mine in Los Angeles says to me, I'm doing a one-man show called Sherlock Holmes Solves the Shakespeare Mystery, and his name was Michael Dunn, and he did this one-man show thing, and he was inviting me along. Would you come and support me? Well, when a friend asks you to come and see their show, of course you go along, but I didn't want to. I did not want to at all. I thought, oh, God, please let me be able to get out at the end and just say, hey, great, Michael, see you next week, with that. Because I thought, no, I don't want Shakespeare. It sounded very, very dull and academic. But the interesting thing is by that time, I'd done everything I wanted to do in life. I was actually getting ready to retire. I thought, I'm ready to retire now. I've had my little hit record. I've had this and that. I've done some books that have had some success. But I knew there was something else burning inside. That old manifesting desire was still there. I want to do something I came here to do, and it hasn't happened yet. What is it? And I was asking all the time, praying internally, what is it? What is it? So my friend says, come along. And I go, don't really want to go. Went along. Within 10 minutes of him starting the show, I realized it hit me like a ton of bricks. Oh, my God, this is it. And the thing that turned me on was he was just describing that the Shakespeare story that we all learn in school might be wrong because there is no paper trail. The man that we're all taught is Shakespeare comes from Stratford-on-Avon. He pronounced his name Shaxper. Not that that proves anything, but it was Shaxper. But there's no paper trail. There are no manuscripts in his hand. There are no plays in his hand. There are no poems in his hand. There's not a page. There's not a line in his hand. The greatest writer that ever lived never wrote a letter to anybody. Anybody, right? It doesn't make sense. He has the greatest career in London. He's known as the greatest writer of all time, and yet nobody's ever seen him. Nobody really talks about the man himself. They talk about this name sometimes, but not, I met Bill down at the Mermaid Tavern the other night. We had a beer, and he was talking about Romeo and Juliet, his new hot number he's doing. No, there are no contemporary references. So Michael was explaining this in his one-man show, and I thought, wow, I didn't know this. Of course, most of us don't know this. We're not taught this in school. We're taught he's the greatest writer, whether you like him or not, whether you understand it or not. We're going to force feed you this stuff, and you have to play Hamlet.
We all assume that like he was hanging out at the Globe Theater every night with his friends. Right?
As you would be if you were the writer doing this stuff. You'd be there. You'd have to be there, right? Somebody would have seen you. But no, there's a big mystery. And this is not a new mystery. This has been going on for 200 years or more, that people have been saying, all the greatest minds from Walt Whitman to Mark Twain to, I would list them all, it goes on and on and on, who've said, no, this can't be. This man has more knowledge than anyone. He knows everything. From the classics, he speaks Latin and French and German and blah, 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 blah. And he knows botany, he knows astronomy, he knows mathematics, he knows the law, for God's sake. He never gets anything wrong about these incredible subjects that he weaves in and out of his plays. Half of the plays are written, featured in towns in Italy. Shakespeare never traveled anywhere. You couldn't just travel in those days. Shakespeare had no education. So where did he get all this knowledge from? It has to be somebody that had access to the best libraries, who had the protection of the court, because he talks about all courtly pursuits. He knows about hawking. He knows about tennis. He knows about everything to do with the aristocratic life. He knows the politics. So all of this was very, very wonderful. I got introduced to it. I knew that night of that show that, this is it. This is what I'm going to write. And being a musician, my natural inclination was to say, I'm going to write a musical about this. And so I set about doing it the next day. And I haven't had a day off since.
Yeah, right. Well, okay, so a couple of quick questions before we start to move on here, because this is where things get pretty amazing. And I can, after your life of rock and roll and Davy Jones, I mean, how great is all of that? I'm sure you worked on the Brady Bunch movie. It doesn't get any better than that. But this turn of events gets extraordinary. And as you jumped in, I want to ask you one question that just popped up a few times in Twitter, which is this. And I'm not getting ahead of ourselves. It's not really what we're going to be talking about. But as you started to research, who do you think really wrote the Shakespeare stuff?
Well, I went into it with an absolutely neutral, I wanted to remain neutral, to be honest to the research. I didn't want to, bias it in any way. I just wanted to read everything that I possibly could about what's called the Shakespeare authorship mystery. Many, many people have written about it. It's staggering the number of books that are out there about A, Shakespeare, probably 100,000 books, B, about Shakespeare not being Shakespeare, certainly hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books of that ilk. Many people at first thought it was Francis Bacon.
That's right.
And that was 150 years or so ago. That kind of, I would say Bacon had something to do with it. I don't want to discount anybody's research because this is such a massive subject. But I don't believe he is the writer, but his name is certainly attached to the codes that I've discovered and what many other people have discovered. They were searching for bacon codes long time ago. But you have to understand the industry, let's call it Shakespeare Inc., the industry, the tourism, it's the second largest tourist attraction in England behind the Tower of London, is going to Stratford and seeing his birthplace and seeing where his grave is in Holy Trinity Church, Stratford, right? And then worldwide, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry because the man from Stratford has no family heirs, and so no royalties are ever going to anybody. The people that benefit from it are the producers and the actors, and fine, that's all fine. It's not a question of, that's unfair or anything, but many people benefit from the business of Shakespeare. So if you go in and rock the boat saying, I don't think it's him, well, that can be tricky. So there are many... So to whoever was writing that on Twitter, granted, there are many what we call candidates. The leading candidate right now is Edward de Vere, 17th Earl of Oxford. And by that I mean most scholars who've looked into this believe that, and that is called the Oxfordian movement because he was Lord Oxford. But there are still many Baconians who believe it's Bacon, some of whom are very dear friends of mine. They're very wonderful scholars, particularly Peter Dawkins and many others who understand that this is a deep and almost impenetrable question. To answer you want to ask who do I think it is? I think I strongly think it's De Vere.
Well, let's jump ahead because we're gonna run out of time in this segment.
Okay.
Let's get to and how you pulled it off, and the videos are there at your website, tobeornottobe.org. And I invite everybody to go and check out what we're about to talk about. But you secretly radared the altar stone at Shakespeare's church. And you did it, as quickly as possible. How did you pull that off? It was like David Copperfield.
I had been on this journey 6 years at the time, and codes very clearly stated that the man who was Shakespeare, whoever he was, had left something physical for us. Now, this would be the holy grail of literature.
No doubt.
The whole thing, right? Oh, he left something? Where? And they state absolutely unequivocally that he's left it inside the Holy of Holies altar stone, just a few feet away from Shakespeare's grave and Shakespeare's monument in Shakespeare's church, Holy Trinity Church, Stratford upon Avon. And so, but you can't get there because the whole thing is protected by a forensic system that sprays you with a chemical if you go beyond the bounds of where you're allowed to go normally. There are 24-hour CCTV cameras. It's one of the most visited tourist places in England. So how do you get there? I spent 4 years going to the church, 6 visits, to be their friend. I helped them with all kinds of things. I designed a calendar that they could sell in the gift shop to raise money. We talked about doing a Davy Jones concert to raise money for them. On and on and on. I gradually gained access by helping them in very many ways. It was, there was a little bit of the fact that, well, I want to get to that altar. I mean, I have to admit that, yes. But at the same time, I got to know those people there, and I thought, boy, they don't know what they've got here, and they're certainly not trying to hide something. They don't know. They're just running a church. This is his grave. We charge £2 to come in and see his grave. That's it. That's the business. But I knew I had to get to that altar. And so I ended up doing a presentation of my musical at the church, in the chancel, at the grand piano there. We did a presentation of excerpts from the musical. I did 2 versions of it. One was what I call the dress rehearsal, and at that dress rehearsal, I put up a banner in front of the altar so that nobody could see the altar. The banner, 12 foot by 9 feet, advertising the musical, Bard. And behind that banner, I secretly had a whole team radar scanning the altar and filming it in night vision. Because I'd been given permission to play there, of course, they had to turn off the forensic system so no one was sprayed. And at the end of the show, I asked for all the lights to be turned off in the church, and let's do it by candlelight. And I sang my musical version of Sonnet 18, Shall I Compare Thee to a Summer's Day? And while I was singing it, we had 3 minutes in which to scan the altar with radar, film it in night vision so that everybody could see it. And then we sent the results to 2 of the leading radar labs in America, got the results back, and found that, yes, every altar stone, a Holy of Holies altar stone, should have a tiny, tiny little hole that would show up as a little blue area in the scan. And it would be no bigger than a small child's shoebox. The hole that is in that altar is 250 times that size. And the scan shows, and you can see these scans on the website, the scan shows differing levels of density, indicating that it's full of something. Now, of course, it doesn't. The scan was not so accurate. It wasn't a Kaiser Permanente MRI machine. I had to go in there with something tiny that nobody would see us sneaking in. So it was ground penetrating radar. It's accurate. It works, but it's not going to show you, oh, here's the sonnets and here's Hamlet, and no. But it shows you, oh, all that. There's a load of stuff in there. Well, that's it. You know?
Yeah, the video, everybody needs to go and watch it. That is one of the most nerve-wracking things for you to pull off by candlelight with this banner in front, and you guys actually go and you pulled it off. Yeah. And
we were risking arrest and imprisonment, but we knew we had to do it because otherwise they weren't going to open it. There was no way that the church was going to voluntarily open that altar in case what's in there proves something other than the official story.
Yeah, they don't want to know. They don't want to know. They don't. They need. You don't want to disrupt the status quo, you know, and that's it. They're totally cool with that thing staying sealed.
Yeah, but we have a plan to actually get past that.
And we do. So now the opening that is there is well, it's obvious in the video, but what do you think is hidden inside? What's the secret?
You know, I only like to speculate about things that I know about, what I can actually prove, because it's such a dangerous area. The moment you start saying, oh, it might be this, it might be that, I mean, obviously, people are going to jump to those conclusions. I will say it might be, but please hear my words carefully. It might be all the world's greatest works of literature. It could be all the plays. There's plenty of room for Hamlet, and Midsummer Night's Dream, and Macbeth, and King Lear, and all of it, Twelfth Night. All right, all the manuscripts. That alone would be a cultural heritage that is priceless because none of it exists. It also might be, let's say, something, an unknown masterpiece. I mean, imagine if I was to say to you, there's a Mona Lisa behind that wall. Shall we go and knock the wall down and find out? The world would be beating a path to that wall and saying, yeah, let's find out. If I said, under these floorboards, there's Beethoven's 10th.
Right.
What would you do? We would go there. But because this is Shakespeare and there is the terrible fear in the official world of Shakespeare that maybe he's not the guy we've been saying it is for all this time, and we will lose all of our credibility. Now, frankly, tourism would go through the roof. They'd make so much more from finding out what is there. But nevertheless, I do understand it's a tricky dilemma for them. I'm going to help them get past that dilemma. I really am. We're going to find a way to do it, which is a good way for the church to do it, because they really owe it to the world. They've got to do it. We probably should get into this at the next section because I see we're running up to
we're right up against it, but the video is absolutely amazing. It's a nail biter. It's really good. Let's take a break right here. Our guest tonight, Alan Green. When we come back, we're going to pick up where we left off. But now we're going to get into the hidden mathematical encryptions, and it's an absolutely incredible piece of research. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. More with Alan Green right after this short break. Tonight, we're decoding Shakespeare. I'll be right back.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Hurricanes, earthquakes, wildfires. This year we've experienced more than our fair share. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. And last month I decided to make sure my family does not have to worry about food should we get caught in a real emergency situation. Introducing Numana, a healthy, storable product that tastes so good that you'll want to eat it every day instead of just during those times of duress. All Numana products have a 25-year shelf life, are MSG and GMO-free, no preservatives, and are made in America. With the Numana pack in your home, you'll be able to sleep at night knowing that you've protected your family. Not only have I tasted and tested, I own it. Now you can too. Just click on the Numana banner on JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code Jimmy when you order. In addition to a discount, we'll send you an autographed Fade to Black t-shirt. Seriously. Go Beckley Tappy.
Do you worry a lot? Whether you're a college student, busy professional, parent, or grandparent, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in 1 to 2 weeks. Call 1-800-758-8746 or calmandclever.com.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
Hi, folks. What can I say without making claims? CBD is truly the buzzword for health. What does it do? Government institutions will not allow me to say what this wonderful oil does for us. But I can say it's non-GMO and organic. I can say it's 0.003 THC, which in plain English means you won't get high. There are those that want to squash your freedom to buy natural products. Fight back with your purchase power. In the end, it is you that takes care of your health. Go to ancientlifeoil.com. One more time, ancientlifeoil.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Alan Green, and tonight we are decoding Shakespeare. Now, before we continue, I just want to say that, life, the universe, has a strange way of working things out. And for Alan to go through his musical career and to have the universe manifest him to that one-man play and introduce him to Shakespeare, leading him to the Altar Stone and getting that radar project completed. And you need to go and watch that video. After the show tonight, spend all of your night over at tobenotttobe.org. But The next chunk of his life, he's going to go through this mathematical journey. Alan, I'm going to have put up right now on Twitter for everybody the title page to Shakespeare's sonnets. And this is a very interesting image as this gets presented up here. I have to ask the obvious question right now. What was it about that page that attracted you to it? Because to anybody else, it's just, it's nothing. It's just a page in a book.
Yeah. I had done 6 years research to get me to the point where we just took that break, right, of scanning the altar. And those 6 years research were all discovering what I would say is poetic codes. In other words, codes written in the poetry, in the plays that point to a specific location, the altar. And, you know, with poetry, it's subjective. It's self-evident that you can't really prove anything with poetry. Everybody will have their own view of it. Now, the codes themselves are mathematical, and we're not going to go into that side of that because that's the 6 years' work that shows you that, I discovered that there was a person, John Dee. He's known as Dr. John Dee. He's a fascinating character. He's the original Dumbledore or Merlin. He is a wizard. He was Queen Elizabeth's astrologer. He was the leading mathematician of the time. He was the leading cryptographer of the time. He was also Queen Elizabeth's spy in Europe, and his code number was 007.
That's right. We've done a couple of shows on John Dee. He's he's one of the most fascinating characters of all of history.
He is, and so it's well known that Prospero in The Tempest was based on John Dee. So there's a connection there, and you'll go, okay, so Shakespeare knew about John Dee. But I had discovered in this 6 years of putting this together, and it's easier just to see it in diagrams and the presentations that I have, that, there's a certain code. But in a nutshell, I will say it's as simple as this. John Dee was, of all the things that he was doing, possibly the thing that was the most difficult for him at that time was that he was communing with angels. He was having seances and believed that he was in contact with angelic beings. And these angelic beings, and of course he had to hide that because you could be burned at the stake for such things during those times. And you could certainly be burned at the stake for talking about anything to do with sacred geometry or even mathematics of a higher order. All of that was heretical as far as the church was concerned back then. So all of this had to be well and truly hidden and encoded. Well, he was the man to do it. He was the greatest cryptographer of the time. But the angels channeled something to him on a certain date. It was June 24th. 1584, and that is 624, June 24th. And on that day, they channeled to him something called the Enochian tables. And in that Enochian tables, there are 624 squares with letters in them. And I discovered that, wait a minute, when you take the Shakespeare's gravestone, and Shakespeare's monument, which all have things written on them, obviously, in the church, and the key to the whole thing being the sonnets. There's a dedication to the sonnets. You add them all together, including punctuation, and this is very important because John Dee tells us that he uses dots, including the punctuation as a character. There are 624 characters in the gravestone, monument, and sonnets, dedication. So those 624 characters are obviously intended to point to the 624 characters in the Enochian tables that were channeled to him by angels on 624. Okay, so I did that, and knowing the key was a certain combination of letters, it gave a message, and that message said, in Shakespearean form, like a Shakespearean couplet, basically said it was in the altar. Look inside the altar. That's where I've left left it for you. So I knew it was in the altar, and I go to the altar and I scan it. That was done. And all of that could be lumped into roughly saying, it's poetic. But all of a sudden, I start to find mathematical codes as well. And that's what you're drawing people's attention to now, the title page of the sonnets. So how did I know to look there? I just intuitively knew that since John Dee works with dots, the dots on the title page, if you just look at the title page, you see there's something peculiar about those dots. They just look like punctuation, of course, but the dot after the G is 6 or 7 times the size it should be. It's huge. In fact, in a Gutenberg press, you wouldn't have a dot that's a period that big. It was clearly not intended to be a period. And so by looking at those, I thought, okay, well, it's as simple as saying, connect the dots. Because he told us this in other ways, connect the dots. I connected the dots, and we end up with one of the pictures that you're probably going to show on Twitter, which is that by connecting those dots and the two ends of those lines that hang out, seemingly random, they form 4 perfect right-angle triangles. Now, finding one right-angle triangle, you could say, well, that's kind of wild, but, maybe it's possible by accident. I've had a mathematician do the odds on this, and it might be about 60,000 to 1. But by the time you've got 4 of them, it's pretty obvious what's going on, because now it's in the billions to 1. It's not chance, it's intentional. And then you also find that, wait a minute, now connecting the dots of those triangles, there's a perfect circle that goes right through them all. Now, I'm doing this on the most accurate version of the title page that's available. I licensed it from the Folger Shakespeare Museum in Washington, D.C. I paid a lot of money to have it, and then I blew it up on the computer so that it's even bigger. So, 20 times the size it's supposed to be. I'm measuring extremely accurately. I have a lot of trolls online saying, you connect a bunch of dots, of course you're going to find triangles. No, this isn't sloppy work. This is very, very, very accurate. So they're there and they form a circle. Well, a circle going through right-angle triangles is a visual representation of something called Thales' theorem, and Thales was thought to be Pythagoras' mentor, but he's more well-known for being the first person to measure the height of the Great Pyramid.
Okay, now let me jump in really quick here. I've got 3 images up. One is the title page. 2, and we kind of got ahead, so I want to go back and address this. But the 2 lines there, I want everybody to realize what you're looking at. There's 2 lines that just look like 2 lines. And then the 3rd image that I've posted up are the dots circled. Okay, so you can see the large period dot that is after G. It says at London by G, Eld, and then the other 4 dots in that line are all smaller, and then imprinted at the top has another large dot. Okay, so these are what are going to be connected by Alan now, but I just need everybody to digest exactly what we are talking about. Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, so if somebody went to the trouble of making it that accurate, and by accurate I mean utterly extremely accurate, you've got to think, all right, why did they do this? Why? I mean, what do you do with such lines? Oh, it's nice. They're right-angle triangles. What does that mean? Well, the right-angle triangles are the basic modus operandus of the secret societies of the time, aren't they? What we today call Freemasons back then were the Rosicrucians during that time period. Secret ancient knowledge encoded in mathematics and in symbols, and those symbols that they used were always the right-angle triangles. And one of those 4 that is to the right of the diagonal going from the large G dot is a perfect 3-4-5 triangle. And I mean perfect, I don't mean close. Absolutely perfect. 3-4-5 triangle is telling you, oh well, that's the symbol of the Freemasons. It's telling you that's our bedrock. That's how we do the great cathedrals of Europe. Without knowledge of Pythagorean theory, we couldn't do that. We couldn't send rockets to Mars, right? It's all engineering. It is, and then you look at, oh, well, maybe that's the same engineering that they used for the pyramids, because we can't explain those. So the point is, they've got to be accurate. So I then start measuring all of them and finding out the ratios of the lines, and I'm just gobsmacked, because every single one of them is giving you a mathematical constant. One gives you pi, which, okay, fine, but to 3 decimal places. Pi, well, they knew pi, okay, maybe no big deal. Golden ratio, 1.61803. Well, they knew the golden ratio, Da Vinci knew about it. All kinds of people knew about it at the time, golden ratio, but both versions, large golden ratio, small golden ratio. But then on the left-hand side, you've got E, Euler's number, and E minus 1. Not to get too technical, but these were not known. It took another 65 years for Newton to begin figuring that out, and Bernoulli. And then you've got another one on the other side called Brun's constant, which happens to be in the Great Pyramid, but that wasn't discovered until 1919. So there are 12 perfect, most important mathematical constants all tied up in this imagery here. What's that doing there? And how can they know it? Because 5 of them were not even known during that time.
And how do you reduce that down to common sense? I mean, it doesn't compute. I mean, these were things that weren't revealed or proven, 7,500 years later or more.
Well, it comes down to something that you said again at the beginning. I was very intrigued to hear you say order out of chaos and everything is cycles. We are taught in school today linear. Everything's linear evolution. Darwinian evolution is linear. We are the smartest we've ever been right this moment. And as we go further back in time, we become Neanderthal man and then ape and then, amoebas. Well, that can't be if other civilizations created Göbekli Tepe and everything else, the pyramids being the most famous and known of them. But the Earth is dotted with these amazing structures that lots and lots of researchers better at this than I am in terms of that side of things. I've looked at Graham Hancock and Robert Bauval and Robert Schoch, and I'm sure you've had all these people on your show. They know that this is ancient wisdom, and that the whole paradigm comes down to this. We teach linear evolution, forgetting, because we don't know, because we're just coming out of the Dark Ages. But evolution is not linear, it is cyclical. The yugas, what the Vedas call the yugas, or what the Greeks call the Golden Age, the Silver Age, the Bronze Age, and the Iron Age. Dark Ages, Enlightened Ages. So in times past, over this enormous cycle of time that is known as the precession of the equinox, of about 24,000 year cycle, we go from walking the planet like gods, knowing everything, to the Dark Ages where we're burning books and burning each other. All right? As we get closer to the center of our basic, what Walter Cruttenden calls a binary system. He believes we have 2 suns and that we are in a binary system. Sri Yukteswar, a Vedic philosopher mathematician, says the same thing. We are in a binary system, but we don't know it. And that other sun may well be Sirius B. And so ultimately, though, the point is cyclical. There is a time when we're closest to the magnetism of all that. We know much, much more than we know now, and we're able to build these wonderful structures. And so the mathematics is inherent in those structures. The Great Pyramid doesn't have a single hieroglyph on it, right? I mean, it should be, if it's built by Khufu, to say, look at me, I had 100,000 slaves do this, it should have a freaking neon sign on it saying Khufu, 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 Khufu. I mean, it should be saying, look, this is me. I personally can't buy that. It's okay. I have very good friend scholars who say, no, I think it's Khufu. It's okay. But the point is, it doesn't really, to me, make sense that image sits there and it doesn't have a single hieroglyph on it. The Egyptians put hieroglyphs on every square inch of everything. That pyramid says, just look at me. Look at me. I'm telling you something. How? The only way I can tell you, mathematically. geometrically. It encodes. So what I did, I saw the 12 constants on the title page of the sonnets. I then saw that 2 of those angles, and tell me if you want to get to this, if you've got the picture up, but the 2 of those angles that are on the cover of the sonnets are seeming to be very important for various reasons that I won't go into now, but they're just there. You can see them. You go, oh, that's interesting. That angle is, let me measure it by trigonometry. And this angle is, let me measure that. Well, he's left certain letters outside of that circle. When you see the circle, there are letters left outside by G, which in those times meant by geodesy. By measuring the earth. 2B, those letters are outside of the circle. E, indicating east. And then up at the top left, NE, northeast. So these 2 angles are, one's going north, one's going east. And he's telling us with the letters outside that circle, oh, northeast. So they must be what? Latitude north and longitude east. And when you measure them, well, you've seen it, Jimmy.
Yes, I have.
Where does it point?
I'm going to. Okay, now I'm gonna bring this up now, and I'm just gonna go NE west south. Which spells news, by the way.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, I know.
It is.
Okay, so let me get this image up now, because this is. It is beyond unbelievable. Okay,
yeah.
it truly is.
I launched this at a scientific community. Up until that point, I'd never said a word about the mathematics. But the mathematics, all of a sudden, like I say, 6 years looking at poetic codes, that's one thing. I proved they were real by scanning the altar. In other words, the codes are telling you go to the altar. Then I scanned it and I found, well, it's got a whole 250 times the size it should be. So there's obviously something there, and that validates the codes. But the next 6 years I spent were all mathematical codes involving what you've just shown to your listeners on the title page of the sonnets, mathematical constants. And they point to the Great Pyramid of Giza.
Now, see, this is what I wanted to do. I wanted everybody to punch in, punch in.
Go ahead.
Yeah, let them
they
do
point to somewhere. I don't know where they point
to. So when we come up with this, which is 29.9796 longitude northeast and north, and then latitude, longitude being 31.1299. For us Egypt researchers, we know those numbers, and but when you go through step by step in your research with the video, and you see the math slowly start to play out, and these numbers spit, I knew where these numbers were. When I watched you do the big reveal on it, it's unbelievably mind-blowing. And so I wanted everybody to just punch these numbers in themselves into Google Earth and watch the globe spin around and spit out Giza.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
It's too much, isn't it? It's stunning. I mean, imagine what I had I knew it was going there too, because of why leave Thales' theorem on the cover? Thales is the guy who measured the height of the Great Pyramid. That was a clue in itself, Right. But then you go, oh my God, is it going to go there? Yeah, it's not just going to go there. It's like it's 99.999% accurate on the latitude. And that, so it's actually within a few feet of the center of the pyramid. On longitude, it's a couple of 100 or 300 yards off. But you don't realize how stunning that is. They didn't know how to do longitude in 1609 when the sonnets came out. Galileo was still wrestling with the problem of longitude 25 years after Shakespeare died in 1616, and he was under house arrest. They did not know how to do longitude for another 150 years. But do you know who did know how to do longitude and wrote about it and now actually offered it to the Queen? John Dee. John Dee had solved the longitude problem, but of course he wasn't listened to because he's talking with angels and he might be a nutcase. We should fear him. he's a heretic. But no, you look into his work, he had solved it, and there he goes and puts it on the title page of the sonnets, and that's like, I mean, it's utterly stunning that he could get that close. I mean, it is 99.99% accurate in the longitude.
Well, tell me about what went through your mind when you came up with the latitude and the longitude. You didn't have any idea really at that time until you plugged it in and found it.
Well, it's not entirely honest to say I wouldn't have had an idea. I knew from other hints all over the place. He's talking about the pyramid over and over. Shakespeare himself is giving us hints in the plays, in A Midsummer Night's Dream and in Twelfth Night we don't have time to go into, but he himself is giving us other clues that he's telling you, look at the Great Pyramid. So I knew that it was likely to be pointing there. I was stunned that it was that accurate. I mean, it was just, oh my God, this is just now. And so you say, well, it doesn't make sense, but it does make sense. I know you didn't mean that, but point being that to the layperson visiting this for the first time, how can they know constants that nobody even knew yet? How can they know the geographic coordinates of the pyramid? You know, on the surface of it, it doesn't make sense. It only makes sense when you know that John Dee was the leading light of the secret society called the Rosicrucians, which then became the Freemasons. In other words, they were the protectors of the ancient wisdom. And when Shakespeare writes in Hamlet of two characters called Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, that we don't know where they came from, and in the play you don't know where they came from, and it's part of the story that they don't know really where they came from or why they're there. They don't know. Hamlet's always asking them, were you sent for? Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, what is that? But there was a missive sent out by the Hold on, my mic just fell off. By the Rosicrucians at that time period, called The Chemical Wedding of Christian Rosenkreutz and the Knights of the Golden Stone. In other words, Rosenkreutz and Golden Stone. It was a manifesto of the Rosicrucian secret order who were protecting ancient wisdom. And there's Shakespeare saying, oh, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, you know, nobody knows what that's about. What are they doing there? It's just a hint. He's saying, I'm one of them. I'm in the Rosicrucians. So essentially, it doesn't make sense until you realize, oh, but wait, it does. It makes sense from the point of view that there were people in the know, cognoscenti, we would call them, who had access to this ancient wisdom, and one of them was certainly John Dee, and another of them was certainly Sir Francis Bacon, and another of them was certainly the man who was Shakespeare. And they were conveying this secret knowledge that is encoded in the pyramid. So I go from there to the pyramid, and I look at the basic proportions of the pyramid, and if you look now, Google, constants in the Great Pyramid, you'll find that it's been sort of common knowledge for 150 years that maybe pi and maybe phi are encoded in the pyramid, but not 12. But all 12 constants that are on the title page of the sonnets are in the absolute bedrock proportions of the Great Pyramid. And I'm not fudging any numbers. I'm just, you can see it on my work. Essentially, it's there. The same ones, the same 12 constants. So he's telling us, I know it, we know it, you don't know it yet. Have a look and find out what's important. Why am I pointing you to that? So then you have to go back to, wait a minute, he's telling us he's left something for us physically in a place where we can just go and open it up and get it. That's the altar. So to answer a question you asked a little while ago, what do I think is in the altar? It could be a new, wonderful, fabulous masterpiece by Shakespeare. It probably is. I happen to know from the codes themselves that certainly the sonnets are in there, because he says so absolutely clearly, the sonnets in his own hand, because the sonnets turn out to be basically the Rosetta Stone for this whole thing. But what else? Why would he go to all this trouble to balance perfectly poetic codes and mathematical codes if it wasn't about the central thing that is about, which is balancing the left brain and the right brain. And that in those days was known as alchemy. Today, it's called yoga, right? Balance the two sides of yourself. But the Rosicrucians were all about alchemy. Balance your two opposing forces and you will reach a state of enlightenment. That moment that I told you that I was kind of thrown into. I didn't think I deserved it at the time. It was an act of grace, but I was thrown into a place where I had no positive and negative. It was just a balance of pure bliss. And then I had to work for it because it faded away. And it was as though God was saying, well, now you know it's there. Now find it. Find it for yourself. I'll send you the right way to meditate and find it. But that's what he's talking about. Essentially, if you say, what is Shakespeare telling us in all this? He's telling us there are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamed of in your philosophy, as he says in Hamlet. There's more stuff you don't know about, and it's about alchemy.
Let's pick that up where we are about to leave off right here. Our guest tonight, Alan Green, Dee-coding Shakespeare. And I told you, I warned you. Some of the most amazing, compelling research that I've experienced in all of my career. We're going to pick it up when we come back. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
What can I say about the most popular tea on the internet? And what do customers say about Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com? A lot. But by federal law, we at GetTheTea.com cannot make claims to how this product can enhance your health. We cannot even post our testimonies without being in compliance. So how do we get past the hump? Try our products at GetTheTea.com and see for yourself. You can send us a testimony, but we just can't post it. Bummer. Our products are GMO-free and organic. We pride ourselves in being the best we can be, and we urge you to take charge of your health. We're 11 years strong, and many of our customers have shared their successes with friends and family. Protect your colon. Log on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. GetTheTea.com. GetTheTea.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Man, oh man, I knew it was going to be this kind of show. Our guest tonight, Alan Green, burning this thing down tonight. Unbelievable. Decoding Shakespeare. And a couple of comments, Alan, before we continue. A couple of comments that popped up here on Twitter. Number one, going back to the title page, the hyphen between Shake and Spears. Any significance with that?
Yeah, it was common during the time to use a hyphen in a name to indicate that it was a pen name. Now, this is denied by the official gatekeepers of the Stratford story for obvious reasons, because it just opens the door to, oh, well, it's a pen name. So it's not the guy that we've all said it is. You know, what I prefer, I mean, so to answer that person's question, yeah, that was common. Some of the plays came out with a hyphen on them. Some of the plays came out with the name without a hyphen. But essentially, that is a clue to say, yeah, those two lines, by the way, that are seemingly hanging out there for no reason. Usually, if that ever happened on a title page, the name of the poet or the author would be between those two lines. That was their purpose. It was to highlight the name. And yet they are left empty. Another kind of clue to say, maybe there's a mystery behind the name of the person. So that's a very astute observation by somebody. Yes, well done.
And then I've got this comment here from Arnold. He says, and I'm air quotes here, the spear shakers of that time honored the goddess Athena.
Yeah, this is absolutely, that's another very, very good comment. Goddess Athena, she comes fully formed from the head of Zeus, born shaking a spear. She's the goddess of many things, but also, somewhat mostly the arts and, interestingly, warfare. William held she wore a helmet, and the Latin word for the helmet translates to William. So the whole name, William Shakespeare, is another hidden reference to, it's the helmet goddess Athena. Why her? Because she was the nearest thing that the world was aware of as to someone who was a god in terms of their ability to communicate through important ancient wisdom, through poetry and the arts. And at the same time, it's a hint. There's other information. Shakespeare himself was. There's too much to go into there. I won't go to there. You can find it online if you have enough willpower to go there. But to find out that, the man who was Shakespeare was referred to as the Minerva Britannia. And Britannia, meaning English. Minerva is another name for the goddess Athena. So the goddess Athena, our English Athena, is a thing called Minerva Britannia, which itself holds codes. There were some other people involved in the code making of this time. There were several people who knew what was really going on, but it was held as something that needed to be protected. So my belief is that all of them who were involved in the dropping little breadcrumbs in the forest were all in the Rosicrucians, because they were the ones who could be trusted to say, we want to just perpetuate this knowledge so that it comes out at some point in time when it can be better understood and not resisted by the church.
Now, what about this exact spot that is approximately 300 yards west of the Great Pyramid? What do you think it's pointing to? I'm looking at it here, and I've studied Giza like nobody.
Yeah.
So, what do you think? What do you think it's pointing to?
I personally don't think that that's significant. I think that this is as near as it could be got to pinpointing the Giza plateau. I think it's more important that it's actually the latitude is right dead on the center of the pyramid. The fact that it's west of it kind of indicates, I shouldn't have said I don't think it's insignificant. What I meant to say is that it's too long to go into the explanation of it. It's to do, I believe, with other mathematics that is to do with the entire plateau. The plateau itself, and I'm not the only person to have discovered this by any means. Lots and lots of researchers have said, you know what, there are 3, 4, 5 triangles here. There are angles that indicate golden ratio. It's to do with how all 3 pyramids are locked together. Robert Bauval, famous for the Orion connection, that it might be the 3 pinpoints of light in the sky that seem to be a perfect reflection of Giza. So I think it's to do with that more than just, I don't think it's significant that it's off of Giza pointing to a particular point there. I think it's more to do with if you draw a triangle through that, where else is it crossing? But that takes a bit too long to explain, honestly.
Then, and one other point that I've always been fascinated with when it comes to the Great Pyramid is the golden ratio, pi. There are those out there, and there's more equations here that are involved with the Great Pyramid, but that it was impossible, that it's just coincidence that all of these things are calculated into the Great Pyramid, and you can find pi or the golden ratio in a bar stool if it's elegantly constructed. You can go and pull this off, and I disagree with that, but that's what the skeptics are going to always.
Of course, yeah, and which is why it's important that there's not just those 2. But I've found, I found far more than the 12, but the 12 that are on the absolute precision of the sun, its title page, are also there in the simplest connections between all the proportions of the Great Pyramid. And so what I think it says more than anything is that these are foundational. Pi, golden ratio, and E are the most important mathematical constants in science and engineering today and will be forever, because they are basically teaching us about how growth occurs. Phi teaches us growth in the beauty aspect of it that Da Vinci was aware of. E teaches us growth as it's the base of logarithms. It's how scientific calculations grow spirally. They're both significant. They're all there in the pyramid. What we should do is learn from it. And he's telling us, hey, open the altar. I've got something for you. I mean, we can endlessly talk about how fascinating that is, but what is more important to me is how do we get to that altar? Because he's just given us that. He said, look, I've put something there. That should be the goal of everybody that's interested in this, is to go there and open it. So I've started a thing on the website, which is go and vote, just vote, yes or no. I'd like to know what Shakespeare left for us in that altar, or no, I'm not interested. Let's leave it another 400 years. I mean, right now we have something like 12,000 votes because I haven't been promoting it particularly yet at this point. We only just started last year or so, but it's going to get more, obviously. And the idea is that we're aiming to get 1 million votes so that we can approach the church with saying, look, 1 million people want to open your altar, because as soon as it's 1 million, then the next day it's going to be 10 million. You know that. I mean, it's just going to grow exponentially. To that end, I would like to explain how I believe we can get that opened.
Yeah, let's do that now. And I want everybody to go and vote. All you have to do is go to tobeornottobe.org, and you can click on the vote page right there. And very simple to do. And I encourage everybody to go and do it, obviously.
Because that's, we're going to get, it's numbers. We need virality. That's what turns people on these days. Get the numbers going. More important than that, though, is I just want to tell you that if somebody asked you, who do I think it is? My belief in who it is not even as important these days to me as what he is. I do believe it's Edward de Vere, the 17th Earl of Oxford, because there are many, many, many clues pointing to that over and over again. And his name, de Vere, is actually the Hebrew name of the Holy of Holies altar stone. The Hebrew name for the Holy of Holies altar stone in Solomon's temple, upon which is very, very connected in all these codes as well. The Hebrew name for that, where the Ten Commandments were kept inside the Ark of the Covenant, is what? It's de Vere. The name of the Holy of Holies. This is all pointing to the center. And that's where he's chosen to lead us to say something's in there. Now, you could say, well, they're never going to open it because it's a holy relic. And a Holy of Holies altar stone is consecrated for what purpose? It is consecrated for the purpose of saying Mass. Now, I'm not a Catholic, but I know that the central tenet of Catholicism is you say Mass, you partake of the body of Christ in the wafer and the blood of Christ in the wine. It's a ritual that allows Catholics to make that communion. And so, fine, that's beautiful. That's what happens at the Holy of Holies altar stone. But if that altar stone is desecrated, that means at one point it was consecrated by carving crosses on the surface that represent the stigmata wounds of Christ, and that's part of the encoding. He tells us to look at the stigmata wounds of Christ. And then it is consecrated by putting something inside. Remember, I said there should be a little tiny size of a kid's shoebox in there, and that would hold relics of a saint, someone that the Catholic Church said was a saint. Now, that happened in 1208, 810 years ago. Come 400 years ago, John Dee and the real Shakespeare decided to leave something in there because that altar stone was already desecrated during the reign of Henry VIII, when we decided we weren't going to be Catholic anymore because he wants to marry Anne Boleyn. And so all of that means that that altar stone has had its crosses hacked off the top. I've seen it, and it is in a state of desecration. And that means that the church actually has a spiritual obligation to remove what is in that hole that is 250 times the size it's supposed to be and reconsecrate it, because they shouldn't be having Mass at that altar stone if it's desecrated. And so that's why I believe, on one level, by offering the church a way out of this conundrum, because it is a conundrum, is to say, you're going to benefit. You open that out. Whatever's in there is yours. You can slap it on a wall of a museum and charge whatever you want for the world to see it for the rest of eternity, because Shakespeare's never going to fall out of fashion. Shakespeare's going to be taught forever. You can put it on a worldwide tour. It could be the King Tut tour of this millennium, right? Because there are millions, hundreds and hundreds of millions of Shakespeare fans worldwide would want to see what that is. What did he leave for us? So far, we have nothing. All of a sudden, we've got everything. But the interesting thing is, it's not just poetry. Certainly, there's going to be something wonderful in there that we will all look at and go, oh my goodness, this was written by Shakespeare himself, and maybe a new work, maybe all the great works. But at the same time, why would he go to all that trouble to say the math is important as well, the science is important? Because he's telling us they're both equally important, left and right brain, alchemy. Well, if there's something in there that is telling us a secret about the pyramids, maybe how they were built.
Right.
Is it free energy? Is it anti-gravity? Is it, I'm not saying it is, I'm just, because it's foolish of me to speculate, except to say he went to a lot of trouble to do this. There's something important there, and it could very well be that it benefits us scientifically. It is probably knowledge that we could benefit tremendously from today. And I believe that's what this is about. I think there's a time coming where it's going to be inevitable that we must open this. So
you know who I see getting involved?
Who?
Zahi Hawass. No, I'm serious. There's nothing to see in the altar stone. There's nothing there, nothing to see.
I don't know about him. He doesn't want any kind of, examining the pyramid. Why is he going to come over and say, "Oh, look at the altar stone"?
If it changes his paradigm and dogma of Egyptology,
Yeah.
He's
Well,
just-
it will. It will.
Yes,
but he's
I
not
know.
in charge. He's no longer there. He's not the guy anymore. Zoe Hawass has gone from that. He doesn't
It's
hold
not
that.
going to stop him from making a great meme.
Because he loves the publicity, sure.
That's
it's,
absolutely
it's
right.
good for everybody, frankly. It's
It
good for
is. It is. And I'm very curious, as we all should be, about this Giza connection from the title page of the sonnets.
Yeah, isn't that stunning?
Yeah.
Why?
Unbelievable.
Why is it? But again, once you understand it from the perspective of the lens of, these are the Rosicrucians. They have been entrusted with ancient wisdom. It has been passed down through initiatory rites since time immemorial. From prior to the Rosicrucians, it was the Knights Templars. Prior to the Knights Templars, it was the Egyptian mystery schools. It's passed along by certain in-the-know people who were always called the grandmasters of this knowledge, right? We all know that. It's denied, but of course it's there, and that's what this is all leading to. And so all of a sudden you've got, my God, the Holy Grail of literature is right there. Something incredible is there, probably a new work of a master work, but it's going to be very, very beneficial. Now, the way I want to pull it together is this. The true author, I do believe, is Edward de Vere. The interesting thing is de Vere spent his life, he was born the most wealthy nobleman in the land, 17th Earl of Oxford, and he spent all his wealth throughout his entire life supporting the arts. He bought a mansion in London called Fisher's Folly, just about a mile from the playhouses, and he invited everybody there, and they all came to be at his feet as a patron. He patronized the arts. He helped Decker and Marlowe and Kidd and Johnson and all of them to put on their works, as well as philosophers and scientists of the time. He spent his fortune doing that. In other words, I believe the man who was the original Shakespeare is the original patron of the arts. And I think it's only right that the work gets to be known. And so I have formed a foundation called the Shakespeare Foundation, whose purpose is to know who that person was and to support the arts in perpetuity in the name of the real Shakespeare. So the work that I have done, that I've spent 15 years doing, of the book that's already out and the 2 books that are going to be coming out at the end of this year, all of that will become required reading at some point, obviously, because once you open the altar, if that altar is opened, the paradigm shifts. All of a sudden, there's no zero paper trail. There's a, wow, there's a story. He's left all this for us. That will have to be taught where every school in the world that teaches English literature, right? For how long? Forever. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. So the idea is all that has to go, it has to be taught. It becomes required reading. So I am putting all that into the Shakespeare Foundation so that ultimately it can go to benefit the arts in the name of the true Shakespeare. And so essentially I am starting a Patreon site towards the end of this year where I will be encouraging people to contribute whatever they can. If it's $1 a month, whatever it is, $2 a month or $5, whatever, and they'll have the usual incentives and things of work that I've done that will be coming out, that they'll be the first to see. But the whole point is all of that will be going into a foundation to support the arts, because the arts are we need to. For every $100 that goes to the sciences, in the US anyway, do you know this figure? When the government funds science research, I'm not saying science shouldn't be funded, it should. But for every $100 that goes to science, what goes to the arts? 45 cents.
Right.
It's pathetic. We must be for our children and for our future to be educated properly. We need to balance left and right brain. Arts are just as important as the sciences, and that's what Shakespeare's telling us. And so that's never going to happen through the Congress taking action, but we can help by being a foundation that will help support the arts, and that's the idea behind that. And so my whole focus is to say, I want to open that altar. Please contribute to this foundation, and there'll be information on it as this becomes a reality. But already, I can tell you, we have anonymous donors coming online offering to put a lot of money into it. I mean A lot. Think of a big number. Yes, that number.
How are you going over? What's the attitude now? I spoke to you earlier about the video when you started to talk about some of these ideas in the church there. The grumblings. I thought you were going to get lynched.
Well, all paradigms, generally speaking, take a generation or more to shift, don't they? You have to wait for everyone who resists it to die out. But that's not the case now. With social media, everything is enlivened, it's quickened, and I believe this paradigm will shift quicker than any previous paradigm at all. Because there's something tangible to be found. All you got to do is open the altar and find it. I am certainly intent on offering to the church. I've already offered them parts of my musical. I've given them parts of the royalties of the musical to allow me to perform there. And I said, as that grows, that will become something. But what is really going to become something for them is the fact that they have to see that this is going to happen. It's going to be opened. The story will get so big that they will have to. And if we are collecting money, we're going to be offering them money. I'm somewhat coyly, I'm calling it an offertory that they can't refuse. We're going to put money on their offertory plate from the foundation to say, you need to open this. And as that money grows, as the public interest grows it, at some point they'll be being offered so much money to open that altar that they'll have to. They will look guilty if they don't open it. It will become silly, But the point is, I want to do it in a way that's peaceful and hopeful to them, to let them know, as I always have done. I've gone over there to help them. They're not the bad guys. They just don't know what they've got. And they think, this will disturb our entire tourism industry. It won't. It will actually increase their tourism industry exponentially. But they'd have to get an understanding that whatever is in there, it's important. The world deserves to know what Shakespeare left for us, and he did it so cleverly that he put it inside the De Vere, the Holy of Holies altar stone, knowing that was already desecrated and that there would at some point become a spiritual obligation to open it. I personally think, and now more than ever, the church needs some good publicity, don't you think? They need a good story.
Yeah, especially after the week that they've had or the year.
They need a good story. So this is a good story. This is them doing the right thing. Let's open it. We're not political. We're not concerned about whether it's our man or not. Let's just do the right thing. And I believe they will. So my job is to do that, and hopefully by offering them the part of this whole foundation, they will become something wonderful. There'll be a whole new, that moment in Wizard of Oz where it goes from black and white to Technicolor. That's this. Right now, there's no story for Shakespeare. There's no story of his life. Kids learn about it just by doing the works. If you suddenly find out who he is and that there are references in that person's life that mirror what's happening in the plays, it's pretty wonderful. All of a sudden, you get a real connection. Oh, God, he did that. And I tell you, once you know the life story of De Vere, it's very beautiful. But it's not just him. It's John Dee encrypting it. It's Bacon having something to do with that encryption. It's several people all putting this together to deliver to us a message. And that message is about as beautiful as it can get, because what it is saying is, you are what's important. In Twelfth Night, he has a drunk Sir Toby Belch wander around from scene to scene, and it's so funny. He'll say something, and all of a sudden he'll go, oh, well, it's all one. That is his message. It's all one. We are all one. He says this in Midsummer Night's Dream as well. He's saying we're all one. And it's a spiritual message based on what they called at that time alchemy, what we now call, as I say, people don't think of this word yoga meaning that, but yoga literally means to yoke together the two sides of our, the duality of creation, to get back to the unity of the divine. And that was the purpose of alchemy. It wasn't changing lead into gold, which we tend to think of. It was turning the lead of the ego into the gold of the soul.
Do you think? Yeah, that's true. That's true. Do you think the church knows what's in the altar?
No. No, and I've filmed every square inch of it, and so that they cannot even change it. I will be posting videos and pictures of that as soon as I approach the church the next time I go there to do this. To say, you can't change it. Don't think you can go in there and have a look and find out what's there and then take it. Because you can't. It's literally concreted into the back wall and concreted into the floor, and I've filmed every aspect of it. I know every crack in the concrete. If they do anything, they will be outed as being conspirators in trying to hide the truth. No, it's far better for them to be be on the good side of saying, no, we must do the right thing. We will, because they're going to make out like wonderfully from it. They are going to get the benefit of delivering to the world. Oh my God. A heritage, a cultural heritage, the likes of which this is the biggest mystery in literature, and it's going to come, and we're all going to benefit from it, and they are going to benefit tremendously from it, because as I say, they can then charge whatever they want for it forever. It will increase. I mean, people will be coming to Stratford they already come 4 million a year, but I suspect it will increase to untold revenue for them if they do the right thing.
Who ultimately makes the decision?
I've been to the bishop, who I was told 6 years ago was the person to make the ultimate decision, and I didn't tell him all the information that I've just revealed now, of course, and I didn't tell him I had scanned the altar, but I had. I asked, can we scan the altar? And he said, well, I'll have to take it to a higher authority. Well, there's only two higher authorities beyond him. One is the Queen, and one is God. And he didn't get back to me, so I guess they've both been busy.
Well, that was actually my question. I mean, ultimately, would it reside with the Queen?
Yeah, but that was then. This is now, to quote a Monkees song. That was then, this is now. I mean, this is different now because there's so much more. And we now realize, oh my goodness, there's this entire connection to science, which is a way that we can see that this benefits us. We can see that the poetry benefits us aesthetically, but when you see that also, hey, there's science in there, we will benefit in ways that can benefit mankind. I do believe that. He wouldn't have gone to that trouble to do all this if he was not going to reveal something about the pyramid and why it was built and how it was built. It's all inbuilt into it. But as for why we get that response from them that will change, it's because now, I have investors on board who are willing to support the foundation, and they're going to offer a lot of money, and then we're going to then make that a worldwide event when we launch properly to the whole world to say, do you want to be part of this? Do you want to change history? Let's change history. Let's actually see what's there. Let's do the right thing. Once that becomes open to the world, it will be very clear that obviously that's the right thing to do, because, hundreds of millions of Shakespeare fans are going to say, well, come on, we want to know what's there. 1 billion Catholics are going to say, hey, we don't want to be praying at a desecrated altar stone. We've got to reconsecrate it. The only way you can reconsecrate it is to open it up, take the offending materials out, whatever's in there that shouldn't be in there, and reconsecrate it. So everything points to the fact that this will be opened. I just want it to be a good thing for everyone. I want it to be a good thing for the church. I want them to see the wisdom in doing it. And
the church is beautiful, by the way. It is ginormous. It's just unbelievably beautiful.
Oh, it is. It's gorgeous. And to the idea that you can stand there, and I mean, can you imagine how I felt? I'm standing there. It took a lot of work. I went there 6 times and over 4 years to get in their good graces, helping them. But once we were there and we were friends, and we, they understood that I was not out there to. There's another thing about this. The typical response to the Shakespeare story is, oh, you're out to get us. You're out to say that our guy had nothing to do with it. No, I'm not saying that. Maybe the Oxfordians in general are saying that, and the Baconians in general in the past have said that. They've said, oh, Shakespeare of Stratford stole the identity of the real author. That's not what happened. Shakespeare of Stratford was an integral part of this. He was a willing participant. He was just as important in his actual, and you can see that once you see all the codes, because the codes are elevating both sides of it. They're saying he's important, And the writer is important, and John Dee is important. This was something they did willingly to bring us a beautiful spiritual truth, a message that would benefit mankind on all kinds of levels. That's the truth of what is there. And so, to be honest, no, it's the church is a beautiful, beautiful place. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I'm looking at pictures of the interior, and I wanted to bring this up earlier. I was looking at this. Actually, I checked it out a few months ago, too. Oh, yeah? And it's a beautiful church, and it's big, and I cannot believe you set up a banner in front of that altar, turned down the lights, and ran a scanning radar and got away with it. And you're lucky you weren't hit with a bolt of lightning, man. That could have happened too as well. But
well, that would be only if the divine was against this, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
I happen to know that no, the divine is all for this. I mean, that might sound like an arrogant thing to say, but truly, many people have compared Shakespeare's works to godlike. They've said, well, he's a god. He's so beyond anything else. Whether you like him or understand him or not is not the case. Everybody pretty much recognizes that this is work on a whole level that we should understand. I think most people go to Shakespeare plays under duress. And they go, well, I'm not going to understand it, and I'm not going to. But still, they come away, oh, I laughed, I cried, I was moved to tears. How can that be? I don't even understand the language completely, and yet he still kills me. It happens all the time. That's why the works are still taught and will be taught forever and forever. And that's why I'm forming the Shakespeare Foundation, so that we can know who he is and support that work forever and forever.
Now,
it's beautiful.
Alan, you didn't get caught. I know that it must have been a nail biter when you pulled it off, and you didn't get caught. But now the video's out, and the Holy Trinity Church knows that you did this. Any repercussions?
No, none.
Really?
I don't believe there will be. I think they know deep in their hearts that ultimately this is where this is leading. They can't ultimately avoid it. They can't kind of do anything about it. They'd have to close down the church and invent something like, oh, there's a gas leak and let's remove the altar. And they can't do that because they know very well that I've filmed every square inch of it, and we would know, and they would end up looking worse. So they're not going to do that. And they know very well that at some point this story is going to just get more and more and more. That's why I encourage people and hope people will vote, just vote so that we get the numbers. Because once we get past a certain hump, once it becomes, right now it's 12,000, maybe it's 13,000, I don't know. I haven't looked recently, but once it gets past 100,000, exponentially the math kicks in.
Yeah, that's right.
That constant kicks in, E, the thing that determines growth. It will kick in, and all of a sudden there'll be 1 million, then there'll be 10 million, and the next thing you know, Oprah's going to be there on their doorstep saying, hey, the world wants you to open your altar. What are you going to do about it?
Oprah, I'm going to be there. You need now, Alan,
will be there.
It's one thing to talk about what's inside of the altar, but right there, I mean, in 1616, who was buried there?
The man from Stratford.
Who?
He was baptized Gulielmus Shakespeare. Who was he? Well,
he's got no family. We don't even know his real name.
Right. But again, he's part of the codes. His baptism was on 4/26, April 26. Now, in the sonnets, and a PDF there, we never got to it, but if people look at it, they'll see that, the sonnets are really a calendar. And so if you look at what is the day of the year that corresponds to April 26th, when the baptism registry says he was baptized there, that's April 26th, 426. Well, that happens to be the 116th day of the year. And you look then at sonnet 116 and you realize, oh, wait a minute. First of all, it's numbered wrong. It's numbered 119 instead of 116, which is deliberate. And then in the sonnet itself, it says, if this be error, and upon me proved I never writ, no man ever loved. In other words, this isn't an error. I'm telling you something. And then you look deeper at the sonnet. It's one of the most well-known sonnets. Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Love is not love, which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. Oh no, it is an ever fixed mark. He uses the word fixed. He's telling us that that date has been fixed. So then you look at, well, is there another sonnet that has the word fixed? Yes, the sonnet that references 624, the mirror image of 426, 624, June 24th. What's June 24th? That's the day that Edward de Vere died. Oh, okay.
Right.
But he died under mysterious circumstances, and I have reason to believe, no, I don't think he died at all. I think he essentially faked his own death, as he does countless times in the plays. And so, and then there's one other sonnet that has the word fixed in it, and it references the birthday of Edward de Vere. And so, all this is part of the code. But again, Rosicrucianism is all about balance, mirror imagery. So you've got Shakespeare, who's baptized 426. You've got de Vere, who dies 624. If you remember, John Dee is given the Enochian tables that solves the whole thing on 624. It contains 624 squares, and you add up the characters in the gravestone, the monument, and the sonnet's dedication, and it's 624, and you put them in, and it tells you to look inside the altar. 624 is June 24th, which is the summer solstice. It was celebrated back then as the summer solstice. Midsummer Night's Eve is 623, and the day after, all that play is a code to tell you what's really going on. But 624 is also the feast day of St. John the Baptist, who is the patron saint of who? Freemasons.
Right,
And what happens on the solstice? What happens on the solstice at the Great Pyramid? On the equinoxes and the solstice, you see this shadow for 12 seconds that passes across the surface of the Great Pyramid. Only for 12 seconds. You can only see it from the air.
8 sides.
Because it's an 8-sided pyramid, not a 4-sided pyramid. What's all that about? Well, I've given talks on that, but again, we can't get into that. Maybe we'll
do that on another show. We have a real mystery right here in front of us, and it's just absolutely amazing. Your research is second to none. You're right up there with some of the most amazing things that I have encountered, and I want to thank you for all of this. Just an amazing show tonight. What is next? The book and everything else. What's going on?
We're going to launch the foundation. That's the most important thing. The books are on hold at the moment. It says online, that one comes out in the middle of this year and one at the end. They're all ready to go. But I'm thinking that I might just offer the chapters of them as incentives to people before I release them as books, so that gives them some incentive to join me on Patreon and to support the work, but mostly to support the foundation, because half of everything that they donate will be going into the Shakespeare Foundation, and then we will be offering a certain amount of that to the church to get them to open the altar. Ultimately, that number will get big enough, because we already have, as I say, we have some donors who are going to put in 6 figures. And so we're going to have a very nice offertory plate to offer the church, to say, you should do the right thing. And we're not out to screw you. We're out to just get the truth out, the truth. And that truth is going to be wonderful for everybody, and it's going to be wonderful for the church as well, because they will be seen for having done the right thing, not the political thing. They will have given the world the truth about Shakespeare. And then on one final note, that name, De Vere, which means the Holy of Holies, its Latin root is Vere. His name is De Vere. Vere means truth. It couldn't be more perfect. It's literally,
it's right there in front of us. And you know what? Before I say goodnight, I have to recognize and give special thanks to our dear friend between us, Alejandro, who, let me tell you something. He came to me quite a while ago,
I know.
He came to me and he goes, "Man, Jimmy, man, I've got the story of the century. I've got it right here." And so I do want to thank Alejandro for everything. Let's just leave it at that. I know he's listening right now. Alejandro, you know who you are. You the man. So thank you.
Alejandro.
Yeah.
Alejandro.
Yeah.
Alejandro. Okay, he's famous now. He's got
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
I thank him too from my heart. It was very sweet of him. We're good friends, and he just said, I know Jimmy. I should. I haven't been promoting this. I've been waiting until I had all my ducks in a row, and I knew that it would find its audience when the time is right. But Alejandro said, no, come on, time's right. I'll tell him. I said, okay, well, go ahead and talk to him. And then you were gracious enough and kind enough to come on board and say, yeah, let's do it. So,
oh man, I knew it was going to be all this. So again, thank you so much. We've got a lot of work to do in the future. I want everybody to go to tobeornotttobe.org and vote. Get that out of the way. Watch all of the videos. Download all of the PDFs. There's so much material on the site. So much research is there. It's extraordinary. And again, I want to thank you so much, Alan. What a great show tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jimmy. It's my pleasure and my privilege to be doing this and to finally find an audience that is eager to hear about it, because I haven't particularly been focusing on that for 15 years. But I know the time is right now. I mean, literally, as you go along on this, you think, I've done 6 years' work. Maybe it should come out now. Then all of a sudden, I start getting the math stuff. And I go, another 6 years, and another couple. And then, but at the beginning of this year, I suddenly realized, I've got the whole thing now. I've got it. Oh, probably not the whole thing. I mean, there's more, but I've got enough. I've got enough that makes a cohesive whole and tells you what his message is. And his message is a beautiful message. It's saying you're it. It's all one, and it's alchemy. Learn to balance those two sides, math and poetry. It's a wonderful thing. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Jimmy. My pleasure.
Thank you so much, Alan. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
I think Alejandro and I are going to go out.
I know you are.
He lives very close to me.
I know.
We're going to go and celebrate.
Thank you so much, Alan. And give my best to Alejandro when you do.
Will do. Bye.
Alan Green, tobeornotttobe.org. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I'll be right back after this short break. Stay with me.
Listen to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Hurricanes, earthquakes, wildfires. This year we've experienced more than our fair share. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and last month I decided to make sure my family does not have to worry about food should we get caught in a real emergency situation. Introducing Numana, a healthy, storable product that tastes so good that you'll want to eat it every day instead of just during those times of duress. All Numana products have a 25-year shelf life, are MSG and GMO-free, no preservatives, and are made in America. With the Numana pack in your home, you'll be able to sleep at night knowing that you've protected your family. Not only have I tasted and tested, I own it. Now you can too. Just click on the Numana banner on JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code Jimmy when you order. In addition to a discount, we'll send you an autographed Fade to Black t-shirt. Seriously, go Beckley Teppy. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black Blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hey, can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. The holidays are coming. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. Alan Green, tobeornotttobe.org. You're going to spend a lot of time on that website. There's so much research that is presented there. And wow, what a show, right? And I had tweeted out earlier, and I really mean this. This is exactly why, right now, tonight, why we do Fade to Black. I am able to just sit here and get into this knowledge and this research and share it all with you. I was watching all of the tweets and I knew what was going to happen at the end of the night. I knew all of this in advance, and I didn't know how we were going to get there. So I did that journey right along with you. The research was presented to me. It was probably about a year ago. And I had heard about it before then, but Alejandro came up to me, seriously, and it was like this top secret thing. And Rita and I, Alejandro was sitting with us at a dinner, and he pulls me aside, and he's whispering, "Okay, man, this is what's going on. I got this, and this, and I can make this happen, but are you with me?" And I was like, "Okay, all right." But as I got into the research, I realized how big of a deal this was. You go back. And after the show tonight, I want you to go over to Alan's website and watch the video of the radar scanning in the church. Take a look at some images, jump online and go and look at the Holy Trinity at Stratford-on-Avon, and look at the size of that church and look at what this actually represents. Look at the interior of the church. Look at the altar. Look at right there, buried here is William Shakespeare, right? So all of that is inside of this church. And for Alan to be that is assertive and courageous, knowing that there was something there and how to pull that off through all of the security measures that are in place, he got a plan together. And go and watch the video. It's a true nail biter, and it's real. Okay, it's real. Go and watch that. And then I want you to go and watch the video of Shakespeare's sonnets and take a really good look at that title page. Take a real good look at that. Because as he walks you through, that title page is to anybody else is just a title page, and has been for hundreds of years. Go and take a look at that and go through the video step by step on how this was decoded. It's tremendous research. It's absolutely amazing. But to have all of that in the end point to Giza, the Great Pyramid, that math is not a coincidence. It's not. It is simply not. Now, here we have it. We've got everything in front of us. Everything is in place. What is in that altar? The true author of all of Shakespeare's works has been hundreds of books, just like Alan had mentioned earlier in the show. There is so much out there, and of course, Bacon is everybody's choice on this. And although it wasn't brought up, the connection possibly to Oak Island. I didn't bring that up tonight because I just didn't want to go there. But there is a lot there that is also pointing. Could it be, right? Where are the original works of William Shakespeare? Now, could it be in the altar? Could be. Could it be in Oak Island? Could be. Is there a greater mystery than all of that in the altar? And why point to Giza? Oh, man, I love this. This is one of the I didn't want to make this comparison earlier, but I'll do it now. Kind of reminds you of the Da Vinci Code. When the Da Vinci Code came out, and how these going back to the chateau and everything else that was presented in the Da Vinci Code, we had this real-life, real-time mystery laid out in front of us that all of us were allowed to go and pursue and read. I had so many Decoding the Da Vinci Code books, and I read through all of that. And so anyway, here we have it once again, and we have something potentially even more fun, greater, and more important than the Da Vinci Code. And it's right here. And it's at the Holy Trinity Church at Stratford-on-Avon. It's extraordinary. Alan Green, I've got to thank you once again for not only pursuing this for 15 years and revealing it now and moving forward. If Fade to Black and myself and Rita and Alejandro can play a small part in presenting this mystery and getting to the end of it, it is our pleasure. But what a great show tonight. And looking at everybody's comments here, I do want to go back and point out the one thing, the church is involved with this. And that's the other thing that is perplexing to me. How is the church involved? How is the Vatican involved? The monarchy in England, how are they involved with this? And I get what William Shakespeare, Stratford-on-Avon, and the Holy Trinity, and of course the Globe Theatre in London, what Shakespeare represents to the world, and his plays, and Macbeth, and Romeo and Juliet, and everything else, Hamlet. I get that, and the sonnets, and the coding that is in all of this. It is unbelievable. And then you throw in, of all things, John Dee into the mix. It's absolutely incredible. What a great show tonight, and that's exactly why we do Fade to Black. I know that everybody was watching me on the bunker camp tonight and riding along with this story. It's absolutely incredible. Now, one last thing before I let everybody go. If you go back to the original illustrations, and you will see it in the video, and you see the step-by-step process that goes through with this. But the second to last image that we presented tonight, which shows the two letters that are external to the circle, which is NE, and the equations that are laid out, and you come up with latitude north and longitude east, and you get to that point. I want you to go and plug in those numbers on Google Earth yourself and watch that globe spin around, and then you just enlarge it, and you're right there at the Great Pyramid. Unbelievable show. You've got to go and do it. Go and watch the video when Alan walks you through this. The math sometimes is a little bit intimidating, but he does it all for you. But just absolutely incredible. What a great show. So I want to lay out and thank Alan Green one more time, and Alejandro, and of course Rita, putting this show together. But tomorrow night, Eric Rains is going to be here. One of our favorite guests, but he's going to be here with us tomorrow night, so we're going to have another great conversation. Thursday night, I need to remind you, yes, it is Fader night, and John Rappaport's going to be here, but Jason Quitt is going to be our guest all night, helping me man the phones. Jason is launching a website on Thursday, so we're going to talk about all of that and what that entails, and his new movie that is coming out. So all of that is going to happen on Thursday night. It's going to be just absolutely fantastic. So that's our week here. And then, of course, Saturday night, I'm over at Coast to Coast AM, and that will wrap another episode of Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Camarion. Show is produced by Hill J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Viteau, and Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. It's broadcast owned and copyrighted 2018 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter right now at JChurchRadio. Until tomorrow night, Eric Rains right here. I want everybody to be safe. Go Beckley Tappy.